exciting, Matthew.
What's exciting? Tell me about it.
Finally happening. They're finally here after years and years of being called kooks, after decades of blurry pictures and unsubstantiated reports. The aliens are finally here, and of course, they landed in our most important of states, New Jersey, to make their ground fall.
It's like if you're an alien and you actually choose to visit Earth for the first time and you end up in New Jersey, it's like, whoa, I thought you said these people were advanced. What is
Hey,
this?
I fucking told you I'm our leader already.
Dude,
you're talking to him. I'm the guy.
Out of all the places to actually be, it's like, holy shit. This, like, it's worse than we thought.
The worst kind of whites, New Jersey whites, the dirtiest, greasy white people.
And I mean, until World War II, they weren't even considered white. We have to remember that.
You know, a lot of mistakes were made after the Great World War. A lot of powers were consolidated, and evil people with their evil ideas got a hold of a lot of things, even though maybe the most evil of those people were defeated. Don't for a second think that those in charge of your government are any better. Of course, this is Against the Mob podcast. Everybody listening, Logan Carpenter here, Matthew Billingsley, my good friend and co-host on this adventure of libertarian screeching into the internet. Today, we wanted to take a moment to do kind of a year in review, which Matthew sprung on me after I did all of my drones in New Jersey research today. So we will open up with a little bit of talk here about the drones in New Jersey and just kind of give our takes on that. Mostly me, because I did the research on it, and Matthew.
Logan did the heavy lifting on this one.
A year in review instead. So we'll get to that year in review, but I guess I just wanted to start off by testing the waters on you. What's your lay of the land with these drones? Have you obviously you didn't take the deep dive into it, but we've all been hearing news of these mysterious drones that weren't being reported, and then were being told that we were misidentifying flying objects when they were being reported. And it's been all over the news for the last week or so now, and everybody's starting to get attention on it. So what's your take on this thus far?
Yeah. My gut reaction tells me that this is a private company working with some sort of, I don't know, it's like a private company probably trying to get a very lucrative defense contract, and they're testing it, and they're just not telling, because who wants to let anybody know about that technology? That's kind of my gut reaction, is that the government's definitely involved, but they don't want to, that's why they're poo-pooing on everybody, saying like, we don't know anything about it. That's why you have the White House like kind of dressing down the local media about it, trying to play. I think they're trying to distance themselves from a lot of technology that they don't want to get out. But then again, isn't that why you have like White Sands in Nevada and all of these other massive swaths of federal land that nobody's allowed into? Like the Marine Corps has like 400 miles of beach, in California, or how at 40 miles, whatever. It's like there's a lot better places to test that technology, which then makes me wonder what's actually going on.
I think you got some good instincts there. You're not far off. I do think there is one interesting tidbit that you kind of missed there that will meander our way around this and eventually reveal to you to raise your blood pressure a little bit, probably, on this story. Now, I am with you. Of course, TikTok is going wild about aliens right now because aliens are fun, and we all want to believe in the little green men coming from outer space.
For sure.
And of course, there's plenty of speculation on potential foreign adversaries that have entered our airspace. I think that both of those can probably be ruled out for one simple reason, being that they left the port and starboard lights on while they were driving around at night. When you got green and red flashing lights, that doesn't seem to indicate a co-op operation. It also would be kind of interesting if the aliens decided to fit their landing craft with our earthly
our designation,
right,
for
right.
for aircraft.
So a little bit odd there. I think that's a pretty good giveaway right there, that this is either a private company or is our own government. And either way, our government is aware and in control of the situation, or at least allowing it to happen with their blessing.
Probably very in the know. I know that this was. Did we talk about this last week, where somebody had shot this down, or was I talking to some? I think I was talking to some friends about this on Saturday. I think it's Thursday or Friday. Somebody had called 911, and I saved all like the police dispatch of it. And somebody had shot one, and this lady hadn't shot one down, but a drone had crashed in her backyard, and she called 911 and said that there were 10 more that appeared over that. And so there was the 911 dispatches, and then they sent officers there, and like 25 minutes later, you hear one of the police officers go, "Yeah, we're going to change this to a welfare check," and then they leave, which is very suspicious. It's like, wait a minute, like welfare checks. I don't know. That doesn't sound quite right. And I was perusing through the comments, because the comment section of Reddit on our UFO at 3:00 in the morning is certainly the most reliable place that you could get any of your information from. But somebody was talking about they were working on an AI software to program and control autonomous vehicles in a network. And this person was saying, like, if it's similar to what I'm working on, where if you lose contact with one, all of the others go to that last known contact spot, because you need the consistent relay of all of them communicating. And so this person explained, like, maybe that's why all of those drones can, descended into that one area, which I thought was kind of interesting, kind of I don't know if a good explanation, but an explanation about
an indication of a possible explanation.
Yeah, at least why,
here's a plausible story.
Yeah, it was at least like the most intelligent reason, because everyone's just like, oh, insert what you would find at our UFO at 3:00 in the morning on a Reddit. That was like most of the comments were that, but then there was this one semi-intel. At least it made sense to me at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's definitely been a lot. I mean, as anything goes, once it hits the national news cycle, now everybody's seeing UFOs, and there's all sorts of reports coming in. They escalate quickly. I know I saw like one video where they're like, "Here's the video of the UFO that crashed, and it's clearly just a small passenger plane that landed on a highway, like had a crash landing and got messed up, but like is clearly a commercial airliner or a private jet." So There's a lot of that going on too, and a lot of people freaking out. Everybody wants to be part of the fun. People are claiming to have shot them down, and they've been abducted, and they already stuck something up my butt yesterday because I'm the most important person here in the slum of New Jersey.
What is the fascination with like our abduction stories and anally getting probed? Like, where does that come from?
I have a pair of explanations for you.
Okay, hit me with them.
The first is that I heard the case made that it's actually a really good way to gather information. You get DNA evidence. You get digestive tract information.
That's fair.
Right. You see what people are eating. You see what's in the person's body. All that kind of stuff. Get a little indication of what a digestive tract is. All that kind of thing. Hormonal profile. The second explanation that I've heard is that the aliens, in order to throw the scent off of people, after they run all their tests, they just stick something up your butt. It's like, good luck explaining that to the authorities now.
Okay, you know what? That one actually that actually makes a lot of sense, because if you were to if you're an intergalactic civilization, you have the ability to traverse the ungodly distances that actually involve space travel. I'm sure they've got some pretty, you know what I mean? It's just like, yeah, you stick something up their button and they all sound crazy after that. It's just like no one believes them. I think that actually checks out to me for sure.
Maybe they come down and meet Trump in January or February, and they're like, hey, like, we've been interacting with you guys. We don't want any reason for panic. And they're like, oh, we've noticed actually we've had a lot of people get abducted. Hey, we did want to ask, like, 10% of these people are reporting something getting stuck up their butt. And they're like, that's Xenarf. He's kind of
Standard
a rogue protocol. He's actually on a list on our planet. He's not supposed to be here.
We have teenagers too, You never
know what they're going to get into. Before we get into our more practical explanations, I did think this was an interesting question I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
And that if these are the aliens coming down, this is the precursor of it. Let's say, I guess let's push it to January's when first contact and potential aggressive Or, maybe it doesn't even have to be that. It can
Okay.
just be like the first president you want interacting with aliens. Do you want that to be Donald Trump?
Interesting question. Huh.
They survey the world and they're able to look at all of the nations and realize that this is the one running the shit, and they come down to meet our leader. Is Donald Trump a positive first impression we're giving the aliens?
Definitely not. No. But then again, I don't know. I can't think of any other world leader that would actually be a good stand-in for him. It's like Donald Trump has his shortcomings, but then it's like, okay, so I think any person that you meet, whether it be American, Russian, British, French, it's like, okay, they're just mean monkeys fighting over resources with nuclear weapons. You know what I mean? That's not a good first representation. That's
I
not,
really thought you guys would be taller, to be honest. Everyone thought you'd be taller than this. Tiny little guys with little bitty hands.
Yeah, he's definitely not the first one I would put forth, but then when I actually try to think about it, like, I don't know who better to actually send forward. So might as
Better
well,
not be Joe Biden. They're gonna be like, "This is your leader. You guys are way more retarded than we thought."
right? It's like, wow, like, it's like, I know you guys say you're advanced and all, but whoa, dude, like, you don't smell that? He just shit
Y'all
his
couldn't,
pants.
you couldn't purse out this one's not capable of leading you anymore. What's going on here?
It's like he can't even control his sphincter. Like, we smelled it when we walked in the room. Yeah, okay,
So
that's
I
fair.
had this as the follow-up question then. What type of, because I think it'd be too hard to like pick a person, but who would you want to be the type of person you'd want to be president of the United States if they were meeting this alien interloper?
Who? That is
What are you
a
looking for in
really,
your first contact leader?
yeah. I don't know, actually. That's a really good question that I might need to chew on for just a second.
It's
So,
interesting. Yeah, 'cause my first inclination, and I guess I was going straight to Independence Day in my head. And I was like, well, obviously you want like a capable general, smart military leader,
and
but
so
you
you want like an
probably,
Eisenhower.
but maybe you don't want somebody who's within this every solution's a hammer when all you have is, or every problem's a nail when
Yeah,
all you have is a hammer kind of thing. Do you really want a
right.
militaristic leader in charge when the aliens come and they're like, hey, let's push these damn space monkeys out of the planet? How about that? I'm like,
Yeah,
you're
very
setting us up
very
to get
kind of you to
glassed
call
over,
them
dude.
monkeys. So I thought you're going somewhere else with that, which I think would be the actual proper term to call them. But I digress. On the Eisenhower part, he might be uniquely qualified because once he's president, like, he's also been a general. So who better to be able to push back against generals and be able to speak their language other than somebody like that? Because there was a lot of that, but then again,
And
you
who
also
knows? You get a
saw
bunch of military
huge.
leaders who are well practiced and learned in the arts of military in a room and show them alien technology. They might come to the conclusion that we don't need to fight these aliens either pretty quickly.
That's also fair. It's like, sir, we will lose. Like,
This is
it's
not
like
going to end well, man.
this is not going to go well at all. Yeah, that's a
You remember
great
how we used to make
question.
fun of those Afghans for being goat herders? Well, we're not even the goats compared to these guys. They're going to blow us out of the water.
We're the ants next to the goats. That's what they
We're
think about
the
us.
fly on the goat shit that they didn't even see.
Right, that they just stumbled upon, like, so they swat us because we were in the way. Yeah, that's a really fascinating question. Know that Joe Biden is definitely not the first person you would. That you are correct. I think we
Maybe
can
we
rule
could
out.
send Kamala if we deem hit the 25th on Joe, get him out of there, put Kamala up there, and she could be like, "Well, it's not okay for you guys to invade a smaller planet. We're just a
Right.
little
We're
planet.
just, you see, you guys are a big
You're
planet, and
strong
Earth
planet."
is a small planet, and it's not. Yeah, it's.
That's
I
my
don't know.
only regret of this election cycle was that it didn't last long enough for me to get my Kamala impression down even close.
That's.
It's
Do you
pretty
know what?
pitiful.
It's for the better. Like, let's take the wins where we get them, man.
You're probably right. I would be much more sad to be currently working on that impression with looking at 4 years of Kamala Harris.
Yeah, for sure. I wonder, should we just go like completely left field? Should we like send Jay-Z out to, like, you know what I mean? It's like, do we just I don't know, like, do you just go away from the political spectrum and be like, dude, here's a dude who used to sell fucking crack to all his, and ran from the cops, and now he's a billionaire. He made some music. It's like, let's send him up there.
Something tells me that Snoop Dogg makes a better ambassador if we're looking within that realm of the population of hip hop rap artists.
Possibly, yeah, definitely.
Something tells me Snoop Dogg's hard not to get along with.
It's okay. Yeah, that's fair. I bet you're probably right about that. Probably less abrasive in a lot of ways. Yeah.
I guess also honorable
Smith.
mention, Dennis Rodman is used to talking to short little maniacs.
Ambassador Rodman, put some respect on his name. Ambassador to you,
Dennis
sir.
Rodman.
You know what? Actually, Snoop Dogg's probably I think that might be a solid choice because he is out here just doing all of the side quests, right? Like there's the videos of him serving in and out. He was at the Olympics and in the weirdest places too that you saw him. He was like at the what's the what are the horse? It's not aquarium. It's what do you call horse events?
Equine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Equestrian.
Yeah, thank you. I was close, but I was not getting there, and I didn't want to say it out loud because I would have sounded like an idiot. So thank you for that. But I mean, you saw him like doing things at that event, so he is out here just performing all of the major side quests. Why not? Let's just send up Snoop Dogg to be the first ambassador of Earth. Like he's I don't know. I can't think of anyone better off the top of my head.
Get those aliens real nice and peaceful with a nice spliff. Send them on down to talk to the government.
He's probably, he's probably pretty fun. You know what I mean? Like everything that you see about him, he's probably pretty chill to hang out with. Or just
seems like a pretty unique individual too. Like you're gonna hear some things that you weren't ready to hear out of Snoop Dogg's mouth.
For sure. Yeah. And it's just like, hey guys, you ever been high? And all of a sudden, like they show up with this intent to just subjugate us all, exterminate the, you know what I mean? Like exterminate the weak, subjugate the strong, and then bounce out. And then they get like 50 minutes with Snoop Dogg, and they're like, actually, I think we got this whole like galactic conquering, guys. What are we doing? It's
we actually tried some of these humans marijuana out, and it seems to be a valuable resource that we don't want to just glass the planet over for. It seems to be a delicate process. Bring it along. We're going to talk to these humans for a while. All right. So on a more serious note with these drones here, since obviously we've kind of ruled out the foreign adversaries and alien invasions because of the bright lights at night. I did find it interesting that we've also seen reports of them moving in grid-like patterns, like they're searching for something, and hovering over large infrastructure buildings.
I have seen that, which is not great. It's not good. Go ahead.
It's I heard some mayor that's been on TV all over the place was saying, like, I actually think this is a good thing because I think these are our drones. So it's, where it's safer being around those. However, you still have to ask, why are our drones hovering over major infrastructure?
Yeah.
I do think it's a little interesting cloak and dagger with this, where they really, for the first week or two, they kept pushing the misidentification narrative. No, you guys are crazy. That was a helicopter. That was a plane. That's not, So there's something, it seems to be our government, or at least private industry that our government has approved. They're moving in kind of a grid pattern, searching over the area and making stops at major infrastructure buildings. There's also been a report that there was some radioactive material go missing out of a train shipment.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm wondering if these things are stopping at major infrastructure because they're worried about a terrorist attack potentially. And what do you want to protect first is all your major infrastructure. And then the grid pattern is probably them scanning for radiation.
Interesting. So I didn't hear about the nuclear material going missing.
That's the lead I was bearing. That's a little bit concerning with this whole story.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. It wouldn't be the first Broken Arrow event, to be fair. We have
Right.
lots of them. This, some like we've lost whole missiles and still have not found them. So it's
Mm,
not the first time that
mhm.
nuclear material or missiles have gone, out of the inventory. That's fascinating. I didn't hear that.
It specifically too, the story of it missing was that it was in transit in New Jersey, that the shipment went missing. They found the container and it was damaged, and the radioactive material was removed. So I don't know exactly what that means, but it is interesting that what is the level of damage? Are we talking about a padlock getting cut open, or taking a torch to the door to get it open, or are we
Yeah.
talking
Have
about
you ever,
something stranger?
I mean, have you ever seen them move that type of stuff? Because I've seen it once on the interstate. I was in the interstate going to Big Sky, so it's like was it I-80 from like Cheyenne over to whatever that part of Montana is, and we saw one going the opposite direction, and you saw three black like SU like clearly government SUVs going in front of it, and then you saw this big truck in the middle, and then three more behind it, and there was a helicopter following it. And I turned to my buddy. I was like, "Dude, what is that?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, they move a bunch of like because there's so many nuclear missile silos in that part of the country." He's like, "Oh yeah, they usually when they move nuclear material, that's kind of the protocol." And so it begs the question of what was the security like, is this nuclear waste that was slated? Like, was it taken out of a radio, like a power plant, and was on its way to being discarded? Are we talking about like missile? Because I guess the point I'm trying to get at is there's usually security with that. And so, was this like some sort of sophisticated attack where there's now 14 dead American like agents that they're just burying because they were raided by like some sort of cell, and nobody wants to talk about it because it is alarming if nuclear material goes missing.
I was just looking. I was trying to see maybe if I could find specifically what kind of radioactive material. There was a report from ABC News as of 4 hours ago saying that that's not what they're looking for. Don't worry about
Oh, yeah, because that's what I would say too.
it. Yeah,
If I
I'm sure
was
the government has a vested interest in not panicking you with missing radioactive material.
Yeah, for sure. Because if there was and who knows what's in there, but to speculate, right? If you have enough nuclear material to make a large dirty bomb that could contaminate, you know, half of Philadelphia or a large portion of New York City, well, I wouldn't say that went missing either.
Right.
I wouldn't admit to
It's
that.
also
Like, what nuclear
interesting.
material? We don't have anything.
Apparently, this is also the drone sightings have moved into Pennsylvania now. And in correlation with these drone sightings, apparently there has been some reports of higher radiation in those areas. So that would kind of match up to the story as well.
Super fascinating. I wonder who monitors radiation.
Apparently, gigantic drones are in New Jersey.
Well, okay, no, that's fair. But I'm just trying to think like an agency or anything.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. Does that fall under the DoD?
Yeah, I don't know because it's like, and the reason I say that is because we found out about Chernobyl because of a Swedish agency found, I mean, they were reporting about the high levels of radiation that they were monitoring, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, now the lid's blown off, and then the Russian government comes, yeah, sorry, like we have a meltdown, and we've been trying to cover it up.
We went to call you guys.
And it's like we actually been trying to like hide this for the last 3 days, but now that you got us, yeah, we're actually having like an international catastrophe here.
We just wanted to make sure it was like a meltdown, and not just like a little meltdown, before we called you guys. Looks like the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Or NRC.
Okay, that makes sense. I wonder if they have like a live map or anything, because I've never looked in this.
In our
let's see, here's something, safecast.net. Okay, well, here's a map. Let me see. So they got radiation
dispersion maps.
All right, let me go. Okay, so I found one. And if I mean, I not to say that this would be.
Yeah, I'm sure if the
I'm
government's
sure
trying to
they've
cover it
got
up, they have
that
no problem covering these guys and going, "Hey, let's leave a couple dots off the map this week."
right.
It's a matter of national security concern. We're
So,
counting on you, citizen, to keep our secret that we lost
hmm.
yet another nuclear weapon.
So there is a. So this is someone was the safecast.org, and they've got a couple of different devices that has shown a spike in the last 30 days, but it's not like it's not it's not like nuclear catastrophe, but I don't
Yeah, I
think
don't
you'd
think
get
you'd get
that from
that
something
until
that
you right
small. Um
transporting nuclear materials. Maybe not.
Interesting. That's fascinating, actually. That
Yeah, it
makes you
makes the
wonder what
story a little more juicy.
it
Makes you care a
does.
little more.
And it actually makes way more sense than any other theory. Not to say that this is 100% right, but it's like that is something that okay, if you're going to deploy some sort of you know what I mean, an army of unmanned drones, not tell anybody for 4 weeks at the highest level at like the DoD, the Pentagon, the White House, you're all going to deny it and say that these state assemblymen from New Jersey are just crazy and that like all of these like who like what's going like we don't know anything about that.
You guys, wife beaters are on too tight.
It's it's like you guineas, like you guys are always up to something, and that makes sense. Why would you do all of that unless you're trying to find I don't know, something that shouldn't be out of your possession? That's really interesting. That's really interesting.
It is fascinating. It's enough that I'm going to be continuing to monitor this story because there's
Yeah,
something
no,
going
I'm
on. The
so much
fact that
more
they're
interested
not
in this story
disclosing
now.
this
Hmm.
makes you go, all right, what's happening here? Hopefully, it's
Yeah,
not a really big story in a couple days, if you know what I'm getting at.
that would suck. I mean, I don't want to see a dirty bomb released. You know what I mean? Because that like those type of things are like shit in the punch bowl. It makes
Mhm.
life harder for it's like is civilization all that great? No, but I do like running water. I do like electricity. I do like not being plunged into a global third world war or civil war. I like
Yeah,
ski lifts run. You know what I mean?
really.
I like my life of leisure, and a dirty bomb really starts to shit in that punch bowl.
Yeah, hopefully there's not some super intelligent virgin out there with a dirty bomb right now, wiring it up, going, Elliot Rogers, eat your fucking heart out.
Oh, dude, that would not be good. Oh, that's not good.
Things that make you go, oh, fuck.
Yeah, because let me see how many. Because these, let me see how many broken arrow events there are. I mean, it's not. I mean, dude, we lost an F-35 for a couple of days. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
They
Yeah,
were
this
going
isn't
door to
uncommon.
door.
I mean, isn't there still a nuclear submarine that's essentially capable of wiping out any continent on the planet still missing from the Cold Wars?
Oh, really? I didn't know about it. It wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that checks out. All right, so yeah, so if you go to Wikipedia, so it's broken arrow is the designation for what happens when they lose any sort of nuclear material or um it's like a nuclear disaster, radioactive events, any sort of fission material. Oh goodness. There's a lot of them. I mean, there's more than it's not like an incomprehensible amount, but let me see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 20. That's probably I'm just gonna start rounding up. That's probably 40. Yeah, there's at least over 60 of these events. Womp womp.
Yeah, I was just looking at the nuclear submarine. Yeah, we had the submarine designated Scorpion went missing in 1968 after returning home from a training mission. It's not been heard from again. Just south of
Oh,
the Azores Plateau.
oh, wait a minute. I'm thinking there is one of those that they found the wreckage. I guess this was in the Pacific. I want to say one of those subs imploded and then they found it years later. And I
Hmm.
don't know if that is the same. incident. I can't remember where
I don't
that
believe
sub.
so. This was a Mediterranean training mission, so they would have been coming through the Atlantic.
Okay, gotcha. And maybe I have my oceans wrong, but still, it's not good.
There's only fucking 2 of them, dude.
And yeah, I mean, dude, we lost. I'm trying to think of the one that jumps out.
I want to
in my
say
mind.
this little AI Google snippet that popped up doesn't have the full story of it, but from what I understand, this was one that never found the wreckage, and it was kind of like a a whole bunch of our nuclear weapons are just out there. It's also right about Cold War-ish times, where it was probably a really good time to be like, hey, Russia, we lost one of those world-destroying submarines off your coastline.
Right.
We lost it just outside of Europe. We don't know where it went. So
that's
stay
fair.
on your fucking toes.
No, that's totally fair.
I think those are there are 3. So I switched from missing submarines to unaccounted for submarines, and apparently there are 3. There's a Russian, a Chinese, and then our Scorpion there that are still unaccounted for nuclear capable submarines.
Okay. I think this is the same one that I'm thinking of. Okay, I think it is. I think I am thinking of that one, but still, if it's the same one, then they all died. They all like they exploded from the implosion. There's no missing. Yeah, there's like you don't get to just take that. And they dropped. There was a missing nuclear weapon in Spain that I can't find. It's not worth trying to find. Anyways, that is fascinating. Back to why you would do that, why you would deploy technology, why you would deny any sort of involvement, why you would try to, like this. I hate how the term gaslighting has been absorbed into popular culture and used incorrectly, but this is actually an actual form of gaslighting. And something of that nature going missing would explain why you would be willing to do all that stuff.
Right, especially out in the open. I mean, you're talking about aircraft, large aircraft too. These aren't like little toy drones you buy.
Yeah, they say
for
like
a couple
6
$100.
to 8 feet. Yeah.
Yeah, some are saying the size of SUVs. Like these are large drones that are not cheap, that are easily visible, that are just in the sky all the time right now, moving in grid patterns nonetheless, just sweeping the state. So they're doing something that they feel is important enough that they have to disregard hiding it physically, even if they're going to deny it in the news cycle. So there's something going on, I feel like.
Yeah.
And to your point earlier, like I would accept training mission maybe, but then why are we doing it over New Jersey in these suburban areas?
Exactly.
Why aren't we doing it in the middle of the desert?
We have like literally most of Nevada. You know what I mean? It's like you have pretty much an entire state outside of whatever interstate that runs through there, Las Vegas and Reno. You have like the entire state is owned by the federal government outside of those portions. So go do it there if you're going to test something. That's super interesting. Yeah. So now when I Google missing material in New York, missing nuclear material in New Jersey, same article, fact check, drones are not tracking this missing radioactive material.
That's silly. It's unrelated.
Right.
We couldn't possibly comprehend what these random drones are doing. They're just out there, not being directed.
So this is from NDTV. Who knows what that is? How credible it is? I have no idea. It says the medical device that went missing contains a small amount of germanium-68 per the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Let's see. Medical equipment used for cancer scans. Damaged and empty. Interesting. And I don't know nearly enough about these so it says it's less than an IAEA category 3 source. I don't know what that means. It says sources are very unlikely to cause permanent injury to the individuals and contain a small. So maybe it is something. I don't know. Maybe you can make a dirty bomb out of it. Maybe you can't.
Or maybe it was an intercontinental missile. and they didn't want to fucking tell the public that. So
Also
they came up with
fair.
some bogus story that would also give off radiation so that you don't get spooked.
That's okay. That one, yes, agreed. That's totally reasonable. Because I'm not here to suggest that your government has always been forthright with you. Because they've always been on the up and up about everything that goes on. Fascinating.
On the
Super
positive side of that, this nuclear medical machine sounds like it's probably pretty expensive. So I'm sure there is plenty of motive enough to still even medical equipment, to be fair.
Yeah, and it's, I don't know, maybe
It
it's
seems
like
odd that the government would then scramble an army of never before seen gigantic drones to go find it.
That's the thing, though. And I guess maybe just to go down that train of thought. So if it is just something that is purely used for medicine, maybe the company that owns said technology goes to some sort of defense contractor with this technology and said, look, if this gets out in the open market, it's going to cost us billions and billions of dollars. And so like, we will gladly pay whatever it takes for you to find this for us. So
that's a good point. Yeah, it could be the app, not just the physical machine itself, but if the
technology, right? Because if it like somebody stole it, if they deconstruct this and upload it to,
think of how much money we're gonna lose if the fucking peasants learn how to cure their own cancer. We can't allow this.
Oh no, of course not. Like you just like a massive I don't know if cancer is $1 trillion industry, but it's certainly billions. Like the cancer, you know what I mean? Cancer treatment in this country has got to be at least a couple billion. There's got to be tens of billions of dollars every year that thing makes. So maybe it's something like that. It's we don't want this technology because what's that game where all of the classified stuff gets leaked? Warhammer, War Thunder. Which one is? You know what I'm talking about? Where like that Jack Tertia, the guy that leaked all the Pentagon stuff, put it up on.
Oh yeah, the game where they were leaking. I don't remember the game, but I think
it's War Thunder. But anyways, whatever that game is, like you don't want the blueprints and the technology for that to be, you know what I mean, get uploaded and now
come out on hospital sims.
All of your competitors in China have access to it.
The cancer industry is expected to be a $300 billion industry by 2032.
Okay, so it's probably 200 billion now. That's a lot of it's a lot of money. So maybe it is something like that where
it's enough. They shut down your whole economy to sell some fucking shots that don't even work. So
for real,
what they can do to keep cancer under wraps?
Well, probably a lot. Probably send out some drones. Maybe kill. It's what's the meme where the guy? It's like when you're getting on a plane and you hear the scientists behind you talking about how he just cured cancer, and he's just like, "I gotta get off this flight."
Oh God! Are there any parachutes on board? Holy hell! Yeah, it's cures for cancer or engines that run on water. There's been like 2 cases of human beings who've sought out patents for engines that run on water, and they both died under mysterious circumstances.
Yeah, and it's like that checks out. So I mean, it's either I think any theory in that realm makes a lot of sense. That it's like industry suffers to lose billions of dollars of patent technology, nuclear material goes in this. Anything of that nature makes so much sense to me.
Puts a decent bow on it.
Yeah,
absolutely. I would agree with that. It's upsetting. It's upsetting that it's not aliens. I understand. We all wanted it to be aliens, but sometimes, it would have been a great cap on this year. I mean, we have all these events lined up now to do our year in review.
That
aliens would have been great. I imagine we wouldn't be doing a year in review if it was aliens. We'd be talking about fucking aliens.
Yes. There is that too. Well, it's like, I don't know. It's one of those things that there's a Del Gribble meme where I believed in aliens until the government started talking about them. And that really does just, I don't know, personify my thoughts on the whole thing. When they started having congressional hearings about it, it's like, okay, you guys are just it's all a smokescreen now.
Right.
Like, what are you
Now
trying
I
to
believe
distract me from?
100% those are all American saucers.
Right, that's our technology. There's no way that you guys would actually talk about this if it had any sort of impact on our lives whatsoever.
I would agree with that. All right, so I got two options
Huh.
for you. While I was running across this, I ran into a man named Chase Hughes online, who was like
Okay.
a trainee for PsyOps and special missions with the government, who's now retired and has a little YouTube channel. So I
Okay.
have his steps to spotting a PsyOp, which could be fun, especially after we just talked about all the alien
Ooh.
stuff. Okay, so it sounds like
Yeah.
we're going to do that since you jumped on it.
Yeah,
So
let's go
I
for
felt
it.
felt this is interesting, and I take it with a grain of salt because I found out about this guy 3 hours ago and haven't like really vetted him as a really
Okay.
reputable. But from a tertiary Google search of him, it seems like he was pretty legit into um, intelligence and actually did some training in psyop type stuff. Has written books on it. So at least from my 1 hour of checking him out, he seems like a
Sure.
reasonably reputable human being on this subject. So the first step is to analyze the source. That seems pretty obvious. Uh, he talks about simply looking into like there's two types of news outlets. There are ones who try to stick to facts, and then there are sensational news outlets, and you need to like parse through your own sources to figure out which of those are which. That's
Okay.
a pretty obvious first step. We all do that when analyze your sources. Step two is question the timing. This is one I like a lot. Whenever you
Ah,
do see a sensationalized psyop propaganda piece, UFOs coming out during big scandals in government, policy debates, elections going on, that kind of thing. That's always a good one. Which is
sure.
another one I think we've both held true to ourselves of like, hey, what's this crazy story? Then what else is going on? What are they distracting us
Right.
from?
What are they burying the lead with?
Right. What are they? Why do they want us to talk about wokeism right now so big in the last decade? And we've talked on that in length in the past about it kind of
Right.
sprouting out of us pointing towards the bankers and their misgivings towards the peasants such as ourselves. Step three is to follow the narrative. Are multiple outlets parroting the same language? Do you hear copy and paste phrases?
Sure.
He really keyed on this one that if you hear them saying the same verbatim threat to democracy over and over, or,
Right.
Russian collusion, these buzzwords that are so hot.
Weird. You know what I mean? We got that one for that was
Yeah, that was a short-lived one with
that was a
the
short, but that was like 3
Vance bit.
days of everybody they're weird. They're
I
so
think
weird.
that one got crushed. I think immediately by the interview of the young gentleman in clown makeup and no shirt and like an adult diaper. And they ask him like, what do you think's weird about conservatives?
And you're like,
I don't know if you saw that specific one, but
I did
he's
not see
like,
that, but
he
it's
goes
like,
straight into like, well, I just feel like there's like a culty aspect. And you're just like,
and you're
this is
like,
the most
bro, wearing a
ridiculous human
fucking
being.
diaper. Yeah.
He has
That makes sense.
clown makeup
Follow
and
the
adult diaper.
narrative. Yep.
Follow the narrative. So that was step three. Step four is look for emotional triggers. And he brought up the fate model, which I've heard of before, but I'd kind of forgotten. It's focus, authority, tribe, and emotion.
Okay.
So it's this idea that the CIA is often talked on of like, make sure you get their attention, appeal to authority, move to their tribal nature, and finally like have an emotional trigger to it so that there's an action brought out of it.
Mm,
Um, and
that
typically
makes
it's
sense.
because and he said if a story appears to be designed to elicit emotion, you should be very wary of it. It makes me think of things like gassing your own civilians after you won a civil war in Syria, or
You're right.
baby
Yeah.
incubators being turned over by Al Qaeda and them stomping out babies' heads, and these kind of stories. These are things that are supposed to get an emotional
Those
reaction
type
out of you.
of things.
Right. Yeah, there's a reason it's way over the top and to get you to elicit it. So we got those four steps: analyze the source, question the timing, follow the narrative, look for emotional triggers. And he says once you've kind of trained yourself to do all of this, then the question you should always ask yourself, and this one was the moment I decided to write it down because I loved it immediately. Is this going to expand government control or justify new laws? Is the question you should always ask yourself.
It's actually really, I think it's a really solid list. Checks out. It also reminds me like you hear this a lot, or I hear it a lot when I'm listening to Colin Cowherd, where they talk about it's not what the story is, it's who wanted the story out. It's kind of the same thing,
Mhm.
right? When you get these leaks about some sort of story, it's like the story's not the that's not what we should be focusing on. It's who wanted this story to get out, and then why do they want it out. So it's like, did a player leak this to try to get leverage in negotiation, or did an agent do that? It's like it kind of follows that same thing, where it's like the story itself, it's almost the icing on a cake, like the actual story. It's all of the layers of the cake underneath it that's actually important. Who, what, why, those type
Yeah,
of
the
things
real
versus
movers, the real manipulating force, the person that stands to benefit from this is going to
Mhm.
be that one behind the scenes, the tertiary reasoning and like what's actually going on.
Absolutely. Yeah, that checks out. I like that. And so if we apply that same thing to the drone, how does the nuclear story stand out if we apply the same? Because that's a new development, right? Because all the articles I found were like 4 hours ago, 18 hours ago.
Mhm.
Um, so this is a relatively new development, but they're all from
Right.
places that I've never heard of.
Yeah.
So is it like the alternative, like your less than mainstream media? Is it more credible because it comes from not ABC, NBC,
See,
MS?
I do think you're less likely to get your marching orders from the top than you are from these
Yeah,
large
if you're
conglomerates that are
what is
controlled.
this, NDTV? Yeah, they see that's fair.
In DTV. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, it feels more to me like they're not using this to cover something else up necessarily, because they would have been reporting on it. It would have allowed more widespread reporting.
Yeah, that's
Um,
fair.
I do think there's been enough large outlets, enough good outlets that have picked it up that the sourcing. I don't know that I'm too terribly concerned. I don't think it's really been sensationalized because, again, if you're sensationalizing this, one, you'd be highlighting it more, but two, you'd be throwing out all sorts of different possibilities. And it seems like they're doing the
Sure.
opposite of that to me. They're
Yeah,
trying to kind of like pull
you
away
wouldn't
from the
get the White
conversation.
House. You wouldn't get John Kirby up there poo-pooing the whole, you know what I mean? You wouldn't get such a
Right. If this
dismissive
was the
attitude.
distraction.
That's fair. And that's totally, and then sometimes like this, like not everything is a psyop, right?
Right.
That's one of
Yeah,
those
there's
things that
real
we
news
talked
out there
about
too.
last week, that when everything becomes a conspiracy and misinformation, then nothing is. And and so not everything is a grand conspiracy. Maybe it is just as simple as they lost something they shouldn't have and they're trying to find it.
That's kind of where I'm leaning on this one, to be honest. I even thought for a second, like, especially when questioning the timing, like, what else is going on? What would they want us not thinking about? You got the Luigi Mangione story and the CEO thing, but like, I don't know if that's something they're trying to really distract us from. I think they want our attention on that because they want us to watch them throw the books at this guy for killing a rich white guy in a
That's
suit.
actually a very good point.
They want to make
Yeah.
sure we see him get a life sentence so that nobody else feels like killing a CEO this year.
Yeah, we're in the waning days of administration. There's really nothing. I mean, there's some pardons, there's some
Maybe we should be looking at escalations in Israel. Did we
yeah,
pass another omnibus bill in the last couple days and send more
maybe
money to
nothing I'm aware
Ukraine?
of.
That'd be
Congress,
the only things they could
I
do.
think they're in recess right now, or they're about
It
to
would
go.
make sense. It is about that time.
But yeah, no, that's a good, yeah, that's fair. I don't. As soon as you said you went through the list of the psyop, I don't think that this is. I don't think the drones is a psyop, but that's a really good. It's a good. It's a nice little litmus test for things, because it is a full
Good
time
to keep in
job trying
mind.
to purse out. I mean, what I even think is true or not, let alone how that like competes against the mainstream news I consume versus alternative news versus it's so hard now to purse out like what even happened,
Mhm.
and maybe that's I don't know, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. It's a double-edged sword, and I guess we'll see which edge is going to be sharper
Right. All right.
as the timeline progresses.
Well, y'all heard it from Matt here first. This doesn't seem like a propaganda piece. This doesn't seem like distraction or a psyop. This is, in fact, aliens. Matthew has confirmed it.
Yep. I'm going in all in, baby.
Here.
Last chips of 2024.
All right, so let's move into our year in review section now. What are we you thinking? Chronological? You just want to throw some big events out and see how we feel?
Let's start here. What is the biggest event that you forgot happened when you were doing your quick research for this?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah, that was one thing we were chatting back and forth about a lot was like, oh yeah, that was this year. You know what? Actually, I've got mine as I was trying to stall there. I just read it. I totally forgot about the South African genocide case against Israel.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
That had already just kind of left my mind. And that's a pretty big event, especially, I mean, considering the context of like the state that exists with the express purpose of giving its people a refuge from a potential genocide in the future because of a genocide, is now potentially carrying out a genocide.
Yeah, I actually forgot all about that. And if I remember the details correctly, it was that South Africa sued Israel in either the International Criminal Court or that's in The Hague. Mm-hmm. I think it was. Is that it? They sued him
that's correct,
in the ICC, and the judges had ruled that there was evidence of a plausible genocide. They didn't come out and say that definitively, yes, Israel is committing genocide, but it's like on the merits of the case presented, there is a chance that a genocide is happening. Is that?
And we, South Africans over here, are accusing you of being some real dickheads.
Yeah, that's I actually forgot all about that one. Mine is you remember there was a bridge that collapsed in Baltimore?
Oh, I totally forgot about that. That's right.
That was mine. Yeah, the big barge that drifted into the bridge and killed 6 people, and just it's still probably a massive disruption to everyday life in Baltimore. Forgot all about that.
Wasn't there another barge that hit the same bridge like shortly after that too?
Really?
Or a second one? I feel like there was a second.
Sir, like, a second barge just hit the bridge. And Biden goes, "What?"
We'll invade Saudi Arabia immediately. Oh, that's a bad example. I picked the wrong Middle Eastern country. That's the one we're not trying to invade.
Yeah, well, I didn't hear about that, but I forgot all about that. Completely forgot about.
Yeah, totally. I feel like we do this every time we do a year in review too. Especially when you get back to January, February, you're like, what?
Yeah.
It's almost humbling, really, to look back and be like, wow, it's not even been a year since this major event, and I don't even remember it.
And we've already forgotten about it. And that's one thing and I think it's probably just a symptom of the 24-hour news cycle where things just come and go so quickly. But I always look back and I think about all of the conspiracy theories that abound when anything ever happens, and then they just you know what I mean? It's like, and the same type of grifting goes on in all corners of media and the internet. And that is something where it's like, because I can't remember the conspiracies about the bridge, but they were abundant for about 4 or 5 days, and then they disappeared, and all of the pages moved on to talking about what, you know what I mean? And so it is something. I think Kiefer said something very interesting last week where should be kind of taboo and the space should be smaller, because now when literally every single event is a conspiracy, it takes the sting out of it, right? Conspiracies are meant for things like JFK and the moon landing, not bridges collapsing and hurricanes, you know?
And Jewish space lasers.
All right,
that was on the cusp. We might keep that one. That one's pretty good.
That was like they actually still might be, because I mean, but can we be fair? Probably the most like sensational event was the Jew tunnels, dude. Like that.
The Jew tunnels.
The Jew tunnels, and that happened early in the year. I think that was like January or something. But that was like that was something like that is one of those stories that it's like, what? And you read the headline like, wait, in NYPD got in a fight with wait, and they're digging illegal tunnels,
Man,
and then you get the videos of them like moving the mailboxes, and these like Hasidic, like full on Hasidic Jews like crawling out of the tunnel and running into the streets. What
I don't know if I
is
would give.
going on?
Yeah, there were some great. I'm sure you saw the one of the guy like coming out of the grate system and
That's what I'm
they
talking
catch him,
about.
and he's like, "Oh, holy shit! I got caught by the goyim up here."
You still owe me that $50.
Just a schmeckle. I didn't read one particular thing from Chase Hughes' little piece there that I probably should have because it came up pretty relevant there in regards to like these conspiracy theories just disappearing into nowhere. I guess you could apply this logic to them as well as psyops. But he said real stories evolve with new information. Psyops fade as soon as they have served their purpose.
That's actually a really good point.
And so that's an interesting. Same with the conspiracies there, and maybe that again things like JFK we're still talking about, but things like
Right.
whatever the giant aliens that were standing on top of the mountain in Utah, I think was one of those this year too. Like that lasted all of 1 week on TikTok because there's nothing to it.
Yeah, that's actually, and on that note, what if a lot of these conspiracy, it wouldn't shock me at this point that if conspiracies are actually being like pushed and, propagated by the DOD, the FBI, the CIA, because it's right. Like we can take the Jewish space lasers in Hawaii, right? Because there's all these things about like, oh, Oprah and the rich are their house is saved, and it's like you would much rather have people talking about like blue roofs and space lasers versus just like the run of the mill incompetency of local government or the harsh reality that some place, you know what I mean, of like natural.
And you know what else
There's
Oprah's biggest state has out there? The biggest fucking yard you've ever seen. So it's hard for fire to cross it.
right, and it's like you would much rather people talk about those type of things versus the fact that there's only I can't remember. I remember when we did the deep dive on it, but that the water system was outdated and and everyone knew it needed to be upgraded. That the way that the fire
Yeah, specifically,
the firefighters
water
on the
systems are not capable of taking out laser fires, I think.
Right, that's exactly, and it's way better to have people focus on those type of things than the run of the mill things that government's actually supposed to be. You know what I mean? Like you pay your taxes.
How much money did we spend to Ukraine, and why don't we have
why doesn't our fire hydrants
state?
work? Exactly. You know what I mean? So it makes me wonder how many of those conspiracies are actually being pushed by the government because you'd much rather have people talk about that and have it kind of fuel in this fringe part of the internet where most rational, like not rational people, but like the normies look at and like, what are you guys talking about? So you'd rather have this portion of the internet push these kind of fringe stories and have every normie be like, well, they're absolutely batshit crazy, glossing over any like air of legitimacy that might be hidden in all of that nonsense. It just makes me wonder.
Conspiracy theory was coined by the CIA. It's a known strategy that this is what the CIA does. Mm-hmm. They intentionally put out goofy stories to make you not. This is my whole case for like why I am interested in Antarctica. The fact that 7 countries have signed a treaty to say nobody's going to travel there or muck around in Antarctica.
Does make you wonder. That's
things
fair.
Like the Admiral Byrd center of the Earth hole in Antarctica, the ice wall being Antarctica for the flat earthers. Like, right. I think the fact that we have so many, not just ridiculous theories, but theories that are so ridiculous to the point that it's like, oh, you're to be written off as an intellectual if you believe these theories. You're so dumb. I feel like that almost is intentional because there's something happening in Antarctica that they want you to not even think is worth looking at,
Yep, that checks out.
There's some nightmare military base down there that we are not.
Something's not good. There's something rotten in Antarctica. If Shakespeare was here writing about it, it's yeah. I agree with that. Let's see what else. I just have like this Hmm. I have the Jew tunnels definitely stick out to me as like
The
one of
Jew
the
tunnels
more
is a fun
like
one. Oh, I was going to say that too. What a year for Italian Americans. I don't know if this New Jersey thing right now is a win, but you got Luigi taking out a CEO. You got that cop that was standing at the Jew tunnels with that smug look on his face. Like, this has been a good look year for Italian Americans. They're out there
there's
winning right now. Handsome young
dude.
Italian men.
Good for them. They need all the wins they can get.
Did that cop have a super Italian name too?
Oh, I hope so.
Jew tunnel cop.
Man, it was a pretty.
Come on, this guy was all over TV for 20 days. There's his picture. What's your name? Yeah, I'm just watching the. I'm not even hearing the audio. Just watching him talk to the Orthodox Jews. It's bringing back such fond memories of like, you
Okay.
got to keep it pushing. We don't even care around here.
Pull it up. I want to see.
It's not even the full video. It's just a GIF.
That's
I'll give
okay.
it to you.
I still want to see it.
Share. Oh my god, I have so many tabs open.
That is something I don't like about StreamYard, and they're not.
Nobody cares about your tunnels. Keep it pushing.
That's
This is going to be a Catholic church in a month.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh
Man,
that was a fun one. I guess that one went away as just then like young members of the church going against the church to try, or synagogue to try to expand it. If I remember correctly, they sought to expand the reach of the synagogue, so they decided to do it by digging tunnels, I guess.
Tunneling, yeah. And then there was the guy that I remember that like pair of tweets, and he said it years ago, and he's like, "I'm not crazy and I'm not racist, but I
That's
swear
right.
there's like someone
Yiddish.
speaking Yiddish under my floor." And then later he puts like, "I told you guys."
Oh man, what a relief! He was dealing with that for years, thinking he was schizophrenic, thinking he's hearing Jews in the walls. Like, not only am I schizophrenic, but I'm oddly anti-Semitic for some reason too.
Yeah,
that is manifesting as Jewish voices.
Yeah, right. My schizophrenia clearly hates Jews. Like, this is not good. So do I tell? So like, do
that
I
guy
tell
got
my
to
doctor
flush.
about this?
He got to flush so many medications down the toilet that day when he found out about the Jew tunnels.
That is, yeah, that was a crazy. And I mean, there was the video of them like brawling with the NYPD. That was, I mean, there was a lot to that. Whatever. That's the thing. It's like, and that's the problem with like our 24-hour news cycle, is that there's some interesting stories that just get lost to the next day news cycle. And
did
there's
you hear about this Jew tunnel thing? No, actually, Joe Biden just pooped his pants on national television, so I've been paying attention to that.
Oh man, let me see. Jew tunnels.
Did they fill them in?
NY. Let's see. It's like, what the fuck is this, dude? Yeah, let me I'll share this video.
Yeah, give it over to me.
Just so I can show you. But man, like, what a time.
Popping out of a tunnel beneath a historic Jewish synagogue in Brooklyn that was being used to illegally expand the church. After cement trucks fill up,
you're being anti-Semitic. This is just a bar mitzvah video.
NYPD, leading many to speculate something more nefarious was going on. So I showed up to see what I could learn. Hey, is there any way we can go inside?
There's a bunch of guys.
I don't care about what you have to say about it, but
no, nothing of these tunnels under your city.
That is one of the Jewish. Like, there's, I don't know, at a certain point you can't make this stuff up. Like, if you like if you were the script writer for 2024 and you're just like, hey, you know what we should put in January, like the second week of the year, let's hit them with like some Jew tunnels. The network would be like, no way, dude, we can't do that. That's so outrageous. Like no one's ever gonna buy. No one's ever gonna buy that
Jew
this
tunnels?
is part of this. No one's gonna buy that. And then it's just like nope, we get Jew tunnels.
You guys think it was a little on the nose? Just a little too much on the sword-shaped nose.
Right. It's like, man, it's so that's a I mean, that's a really hard one to beat in terms of like absurdity.
It's pretty up there. I mean, I was trying to look through and think what's another absurd one that I could bring up. This was the year that we saw the Mona Lisa take some soup to the face.
Yeah. Aren't all those like didn't they like paint the Stonehenge too?
Yeah, I believe they painted.
It's all like
that one really got my blood boiling as a
Just Stop Oil
old rock to work.
I think that as a society, if somebody does that, we should tolerate a lynching on the spot. I think if like a crowd wanted to like string that person up with some frontier justice, I think as a society we should be like, that's probably for the better. Like we should tolerate this. The world is a better place.
There's a clip I've seen, and I'm sure it's from a TV show or a movie, but they're playing one of these where two protesters walk up and throw paint on a painting and then glue their hands to it and start screaming. I think it's a French film. I believe they're all speaking French. And the guy walks up and just pulls out the 9 and just pops them both. It's like, I don't know why, but I don't know what the movie's from. I've never sought it out. Every time I see that clip, I just smile ear to ear.
Yeah, I think that should be an acceptable way to deal with that type of nonsense. Because you're not making the world a better place. You're not bringing... All you're doing is making the average person hate your movement. I've also heard that it's actually oil companies that fund all of those protesters just because like every time I want to see that, it's like you should probably destroy like a protected habitat to drill, you know. Like every time I see one of it, it's like, who cares about some protected, like let's just pollute a river now. We're drilling for natural gas now that they threw soup on the Mona Lisa.
Fuck them for being funded by big oil. I think if you don't want to go the violent route, an appropriate response to somebody gluing their hand to a wall or to a racetrack or wherever it is just take their pants. Just go take their pants off them. They can't fight you off with one hand. Just dead arm, that one arm, just punch them in the bicep 10 times if they're trying to fight you and take their fucking pants away.
All right, that's pretty funny. That's
leave
actually
them dick in the wind, you know?
Yeah, that's a much more benign way to deal with it. And I think that that's probably what should happen. But if like in that film, if somebody walks up and it's like, I think as a society, we should probably tolerate that.
Just a good, put them in the stockades out front.
Yeah.
Some rotten veggies.
For sure. We should, I mean, public shaming, it needs, it's like, make bullying great again, baby. It's like,
I started to make a joke about this being in the stockade, but as it popped into my head, I thought this has to have been a major problem with being in a stockade. Sexual assault? That never occurred to me till this moment, but if you're bent over with your hands and arms, your hands and head bound in a stockade, like there's got to be some pretty rough stuff that happens to you, I'd imagine, if the wrong guy comes by.
And who's gonna stop you? Them.
And homelessness is not exclusively a new world problem. So like, how many insane drunken homeless people are in your medieval town that have not had him a nice piece of ass in a while?
Just like, oh, there's another one in the town square.
They go down there. Yeah, every Friday we hit the town square, sodomize all the criminals.
We'll go get
have a good old
sun
time.
Goes down and all the good folk go to bed. Yeah, I mean, I guess
maybe that's when you're really, really, really happy that you're in a stockade in a heavily Christian conservative country. Maybe they'll ward that off for you.
Yeah, you would hope that they don't want that the purpose of you being in the stockade is embarrassment and not to be sodomized. That is a really
dark thought.
That's a really dark thought. Wow.
I don't know how that's never popped into my head before, but
That's it's very vulnerable.
You hope you catch some tomatoes and not that.
Oh,
Can you guys throw
man.
some of that rotten veggies on my ass? I'm tired of these guys coming around. I'd like to stink it up a little bit.
Dude, help a brother out, please.
Oh, please, for the love of God, can you please put a bike lock on my pants?
Oh
This
no!
is
I wonder
inhumane.
if that's
just
like a
wanted
part
a
of.
loaf of bread. Oh my God!
Oh man! I wonder if that's like a part of this that's just been lost, where they
That's
like
just
maybe that actually did happen. So when they did put you in the stockade, they put a chastity belt on you, so they would, and so that hopefully it would block all access, and like maybe they'd already thought about that. It's like, oh yeah, well, we put these guys in the stockade, and then those weirdos come out, so now we gotta take precautions. So we're gonna put this belt on you, and
Oh
Ooh.
man, it as I
Did
typed
you-
in stockades and rape into Google, there's a Stetson University paper. The student works the Lesburg stockade girls case. Bet that's a dark one.
That can't be good.
It's not as fun when it's
No.
not about sodomy.
I bet just
I
no.
guess
If
it's
there's
still
like
sodomy if it's rape, but
if there's an academic paper written about it, it's not going to be pretty.
it happened a lot.
It's gonna be bad.
While we're
Ooh.
talking about sodomy here, I guess the next event I had down is Elton John got his EGOT this year.
What is that?
It's a reward for music, television. It's
For what, gay people?
Tony- No, it's for it's Hollywood people, so I guess it is kind of all gay people, but not exclusively. Gay people.
Oh, okay.
No, it's an Emmy, a Golden Globe, an Oscar,
An Oscar, and it's okay. Good for
So he got
Elton
his
John.
EGOT. Now, here's why I did decide to put this one down in a seemingly otherwise dense, important list of things to happen in a year. Two of these were, one, his like TV special deal about himself, and two was the mockumentary about him. Does you feel like there's a little bit of cheating in getting your EGOT when two of those awards are about you getting the other two awards?
It seems not cheating, but a loophole that's
It's like an asterisk, like Barry Bonds' home run record in the books.
yeah. There's something about it. It's like, well, it's like, yeah, you did, but
You do technically have an EGOT.
yeah, that's interesting. It seems like they violated. It's like they didn't violate the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law was violated. It's one of those things. It's like,
Yeah,
yes,
it's like
you are technically
feels
correct, but the spirit
tainted.
of it, yeah, the spirit of it's not in the right place.
like you get a national title, but we're taking Reggie Bush's Heisman away.
Exactly. And now you can do all of those things openly. And
You're right. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Just kind of
it
the fact
violates
that you get two of those rewards upon your works to achieve the first awards, kind of thing, is a little bit
it violates the spirit
flatulating,
of it.
you know? Right?
Yeah, I do love some Elton John though. He is
Oh,
fantastic.
who doesn't?
I mean,
Who doesn't?
it's fair. I think even I was going to say it's like probably I think even communists probably like Elton John. I bet he is probably like maybe okay. Do we put Elton
You play
John up
me
there?
a song on the piano, man.
Do we put Elton John up there as like possible ambassadors with Snoop Dogg?
He would dazzle the aliens, no doubt.
So maybe as this goes, like we need to develop a panel because I don't know if it's a one person because you need to give it a flavor. So by the end of this episode, we need to have a 5-person panel that we send up. I thought we can. I think
Another individual to be in consideration for this panel that is also big in the news cycle this year, and I already had on my list due to his
Hunter Biden.
Well, that wasn't the one I was thinking of.
Okay.
I was thinking of another well-versed potential ambassador in the realm of sodomy, which we already said the aliens are into. I was thinking of P. Diddy Combs.
Dude, we can't be sending Diddy up there. What's he gonna? He's gonna put the dude. He's gonna. It's gonna be like that scene from Gim the Greek where he's chasing them down through the like we send Diddy up there. It's got you're coming to a white party, and they're like no, and the next thing you know, the aliens are running to this ship after Diddy.
We have found the Earth peoples to be inhumane and unethical.
Particularly the black
Ignorant
ones.
monkeys. We must wipe them.
Dude, I feel like if you're gonna go for like pound for pound, like Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, P. Diddy, like those are like if you want to try to like intimidate the aliens with your own level of like sexual deviancy, it's like you're gonna probe me, I'm gonna probe you. It's not the A team, but it's a team that we can send up there.
I mean, if you want to creep him out with sexual depravity, I might suggest Dwight Howard.
What do you do?
Well, he's just into a lot of interesting sexual stuff, it would seem.
Oh, I don't know anything about any of this.
So the reason that he came to mind when you brought up scaring people with your sexuality is because there's at least one story out there where he was invited or somebody was invited up to his hotel room, not realizing it was about sex, another man. And that Dwight placed himself between the door and the man. And the man there's a 7 foot tall superhuman. It's the analogy for male rape that is equal to just like any female sexual misconduct situation, like somebody who you just physically can't defeat that's cornered you in a hotel room.
Oh no.
He's also a 7 foot tall athletic black man, so he's probably not got a penis you're going to be excited to see as one who's not.
Just proportionally, like even if it's not like disproportionately large, just proportional to his body. Yeah, that's horrible. I didn't know anything about that. I wish I didn't. That's rough.
I think he also had some sort of dispute with maybe a prostitute, definitely a tranny, and beat the living shit out of her.
Oh, well, now I'm laughing. I didn't want to laugh at that.
You're an ass.
Damn. Now I'm a fucking asshole. I didn't want to laugh at that.
Matthew, you were always an asshole.
Yeah, that's No, we don't need to talk about like the team of sexual deviants that we would send up there to like counter probe. I don't like this conversation.
We're gonna probe every alien for all those dirty rednecks that went up the butt. For all those hillbillies in the mountain that took one. We're sending Dwight Howard up to your ship to probe you all.
We've assembled the worst amongst us, therefore you are the best.
It's like a suicide squad.
Dude, no, the sodomy squad. That's not
Did
cool.
Somebody need a fifth person on this team. That was my very bad Bill Cosby impression.
I was going to go with Bill Clinton.
Also works. After the Cosby news, I was very proud of myself for this joke, and I don't know if it ever got the credit that it deserved, but I love to tell people, a lot of people didn't know this, but one of Cosby's favorite things in this world was pudding, his penis in unconscious women.
That's so fucked up, dude. That's so horrible.
That's this big pudding guy. The pudding. You put the pills in the pudding, and then you take a nap.
Why are we laughing about this?
I don't know, but my ears got so hot.
Oh,
This headset.
Oh man! All right. I'm gonna refresh my drink. We're gonna take a break.
On that
We're gonna reset off the of this train. This can't
the
go
train goes beep, beep.
Oh man, that's
Can you tell me what sound the train makes?
whew. Oh, all right. I'm gonna let's
This
try some.
train's going into your tunnel.
We'll put some lo-fi on. All right, we'll be back.
Well, our brief intermission here while we wait on my co-host Matthew Billingsley to return to the podcast. I wanted to take a moment to examine the fall of America's dad, our great, once beloved Bill Cosby. I think it's an interesting paradigm and maybe something that really stuck with me in life as probably a proof positive of something I already believed rather than something that sent me down a line of thinking. But I've always been big on the actions over words and don't tell me what to say, don't police my language. And I think the Cosby case is actually an interesting case in that realm because you have this man who preached nonstop to the Black community about conforming to, I guess, to white America, maybe is one way to put it, but just kind of to the norms of social decorum. And I'm sure you can point to several different areas where you feel like he was correct in that. But the point being that we had this man known as America's dad, a beloved character that we all looked up to and admired, who was unbelievably clean. He used to really reprimand Eddie Murphy's comedy, both from a distance and in person, as a need for the Black community's role models and how Eddie Murphy was a reiteration of stereotypes that were dangerous to the Black community. This was the guy who told everyone to pull their pants up and to stop speaking in Ebonics and to put on the average all-American suburban dad outfit to come in as a quote-unquote typical American, an honorable man. And all of this, while this is going on the entire time, this dude's slipping jimmies in ladies' drinks and raping them. And I just think that's just one of those cautionary tales of don't tell me what to say. Don't think that you can lord over me because your language is more polite than my language. It's always been about actions over words and who you are as a person. And I don't want to hear it from you, especially when you're out there being this kind of guy. I think it's also a great case of don't venerate celebrities, politicians, or any person you don't know on a personal level. I think it's nuts to hold somebody in this kind of level of irreverence to find out that they might be the most prolific rapist in American history.
Yeah, that was actually a really good little. I really liked that little monologue, man. Especially put against the lo-fi music. Really nice. I liked it.
I like to try to come in here and see if I could pump out a 5-minute monologue while I'm waiting on you to squeeze a poop out every time.
That's fair. It's usually stoke the fire, And it's like, it's cold up here. What am I supposed to do?
Go visit the local stockade outside. Get my fix in.
My daddy says I'm the best kisser.
If you didn't want to get sodomized, maybe don't commit the crimes.
Man, that's like, you make a really good point. There is a lot of, it is fascinating how so many people take lectures or advice from just horrible human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I've heard this once upon a time years ago. It's like, never take advice from somebody who you wouldn't want to like trade shoes with. It's like, if you wouldn't want to be or you don't respect their position, then like, why would you ever take advice from them in that? And so all these people, like politics, they're all bad people. Probably. I'm sure there's a couple of good ones smidged in there, but most of all of this, like, kind of elite class, the political class, this media class, the entertainment class, they're all horrible people. They're all megalomaniac psychopaths. And I think that you probably have
interesting
to
too, because most people get that.
Get
like there's kind of a sentiment that like it's almost like nobody becomes a billionaire under good moral roots. Like you kind of got to be a piece of shit to accumulate that much money. And yet we'll see celebrities do that and they're like, well, it's because Taylor Swift writes awesome songs about girlhood though.
Sure. And there's always and I don't have a lot of strong opinions on Mark Cuban, but he was on Lex Friedman's podcast and I was listening to that, and Mark Cuban was talking about, because then Lex asked him, he's like, how'd you become a billionaire? He kind of told, he's going through the story and he's like, do you think you could do it again? He's like, look, I could become a millionaire. I could probably become a 10 million, he's like, I have every confidence in that. He's like, I have the ego to think that I might even be able to become like 100 millionaire again. But he's like, me being a billionaire, that's all luck. Because there's, he's like, right place, right time, had a chunk of change, did the, invest in the right thing at the right time. But he's like, I don't think that I could ever become a billionaire again. I thought that was like a really interesting kind of insight.
That is interesting. I heard it put somewhere today, and I can't remember who they were referring to, but somebody was worth $40 billion. And the way they put it is, you don't make $40 billion, you steal $40 billion.
And that's probably true.
There's something to that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's probably like some essence of that, because I mean, while Theo and these like the top incomes for the top 1%, it used to be a much smaller gap in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. And then you saw this acceleration to where, it might be reasonable for a CEO to make 50 times what its lowest employee made. But now when you have, it's like you get that income counter. Have you ever seen those videos where like Jeff Bezos walking through a factory and is showing like how much money he's making per second compared to like the worker that's in that factory? You're like,
that guy that cleared $3 during the video.
if that, and Jeff Bezos is, hypothetically made $3,000 or, what some absurd amount of money. And that's a fair point. Well, I mean, the sentiment's out there. It's not good to, What did Bill Burr? Did you see what Bill Burr said? He's just like, all these CEOs should they should be scared. You're like, oh, fuck, he's getting them.
That was an interesting thing we haven't talked about yet either. This is the first steam lost in goodwill of the internet karma that Elon Musk has seen in a long time. He is not so down with the offing of CEOs, and he's actually catching some internet backlash from it.
Oh, yeah, you mean the guy that's absurdly wealthier than any other human on the planet isn't down with CEOs just being extrajudicially executed on the street? Shocker
Put it that
he would all of a sudden they would like look, they would act in his own self-interest. Whoa.
This is actually totally not acceptable, guys. I don't know if we've logically thought through this yet.
And that's what I would say too. It's at a certain point. I'm like, yeah, that's why I would do it.
Yeah,
like,
wait a minute. I'm a CEO.
If I was worth $400 billion and owned the largest media platform, I would be out here condemning it hand over fist. It's like, let's dedicate all of our resources to stopping any traffic of, it's like, I would be very heavy handed about that.
I'd like to think if I had $400 billion, you'd never even know who I was, but that doesn't seem to be the way it works. It seems like those guys, they find things other than money to motivate them.
Well, at a certain point, right? If once you have all of the money in the world, what else is there? There's power and influence, and so you're gonna seek those things, dude. There would be like, I always think about if I won the lottery, right? Like, let's say it's a good chunk. Let's say I won $50 million. The government's going to take 25 of it, right? Because I want the lump sum, right? So if I had $25 million tomorrow, do you know who would hear from me ever again? Only the people that I'm calling and saying, hey, where are you at? I'm picking you up on my new private jet. And we're just like, here's our budget, right? We're going to be smart with our money, right? So like, we can't. It
has to last me the rest of my lifetime.
It has to last us the rest of our lifetime.
Oh, I get to stay on the gravy train?
Dude, we're all done.
I thought I was just going on vacation.
No way, dude. Like if I
didn't know I had a sugar daddy. This is great news.
You don't like it. We wouldn't get to we wouldn't get to live a billionaire life. But if you took let's say you take $10 million for your first, this is just our whatever fund, you invest the other 15 at an average return of 6%. What's the interest on that? Let me see. What's the interest on 6%?
A lot more money than I make right now.
For real. Let me pull this up real fast just to see. And there's a point that I'm trying to get to. 15 million times. All right. So if we throw $15 million in some sort of amalgamations of funds that gets an average of 6% return every year, our budget is $900,000 a year. I think we could figure out how to live
squeeze by
very comfortably. All of us. Like if when I win the lottery, we all just win the lottery. It's like, oh, sorry guys, we can't actually rent that boat because it's out of our budget, but we do have this slightly smaller, less nice, really nice boat that we can rent,
or we can straight up buy in cash this tiny sailboat and we can light it on fire at the end of the day if we want.
also an option. But it's I guess the point I'm trying to make, that if I came into if I was worth $25 million, you're not going to hear about me. I'm not in politics. I'm not in public life. I am out with my friends and my family doing whatever
this is
want to do. This is
not exactly a perfect one-to-one, though. The lottery is great, and that's an attainable, unrealistic goal, I guess. But the real question is, if you have $400 billion, do you go off quietly into the night, or do you all of a sudden have different aspirations?
I think that with what I want out of life, way before I get to 400, I'm out. Somewhere along the line, I'm going to look at my bank account and be like, there is more money than I could ever spend or give away in my lifetime. I am done.
And after 10 years, you've seen the entire world. You've had sex with every ethnicity of woman you can think of. You've tried every exotic food. You've had a gigantic estate that you've set up and built and had every hobby you could possibly think of, and you've gotten bored with life. You don't think you're going to want to manipulate the economy of some small South American country?
No, I don't think so. And it's not to say that I would never because I'm not a sit still type person. I really like a couple of days when I can do absolutely nothing. But on day 3, like if I'm sick, you know what I mean, and I'm actually forced to sit still, like on day 3, I'm stir crazy. I'm not somebody that would just sit. So I would work on projects. I'd probably start some, I'd start businesses. I'd do things, but I don't know. Funding coups in South, like but why?
Just to see if you can pull it off somewhere across the world.
Maybe, but it's like, dude, we got it good.
It's going fine.
Anywhere we want to go, like any good storm. We'll because most of the best powder days.
Most of these like nightmarish Lex Luthor type rich figures that are manipulating the world also come from a lot of money. So I wonder if that's part of this equation. If you have lived a life poor and then come into billions of dollars, you might be right. Maybe you have the hindsight or the overall 1,000-foot view to go, oh no, wait, this is unbelievable. I'm going to take care of every person I even kind of like in this world, and I'm going to ride off into the sunset. Versus when your parents own diamond mines, and then you start turn out that you're a super genius. You're like, how do I manipulate the entire world?
That's fair. And I don't know anything about that. I mean, where, like, you've seen my childhood home. You know where I grew up. I grew up in a tiny ass little house. I live in a tiny ass little house now. You know what I mean? It's like I don't need a lot to be very.
There's
happy.
A lot of indulgence I have to go through before I need to go to Epstein's Island. It'll take a while for me to go through all the things I want to do in this world.
Yeah, I mean, you could tempt me with like, oh, do you want to be in charge? Like, do you want to be a shadow puppet influencer of global affairs, or do you want to just chase powder storms around the world with your best friends? I'll take. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, it's snowing in Japan. It's like who wants to deal with economies and policies and politicians when it's just like, hey, it's snowing somewhere. Let's go ski in New Zealand for 4 days. And when we're done with that, we'll find a beach for a while, and then we'll wait for the next storm. It's like that sounds like such a better use of money and time than trying to control everything. I don't know.
Sounds like a true peasant's mind to me.
Yeah, fair enough. Once a peasant, always a peasant, dude. Peasants is what peasants does.
All right, so this is one of the markers I got down for the year in review, since we're talking about rich assholes and they're spending their money. I think this is maybe the year of like privatized space ventures. This is the year we saw the Odysseus was the first privatized craft to land on the moon. We watched Elon Musk bring rockets back down from space and land them.
Catch them.
Our government had to bow down to Elon Musk to go save their astronauts out of the International
Which are still
Space
in
Station.
space.
Still there, yeah.
Yeah,
I was thinking about that. I was like, wait, when did that? And I was going, oh no, they said like January, February, right?
Yeah, they'll be up there for like 300 days at the end of it. It's like a 14-day mission that's going to turn into like almost a year.
What if they come back and they start like physically morphing into little green men like the aliens? We find out that's actually what it was the whole time, as we left some guys up there too long.
Oh, that's possible. I think what we should do is we should probably buy like 2 billion monkey outfits and just like convince them it's part of the apes when they land.
Get a mask for the Statue of Liberty.
All of it, just like all of the guys in the helicopter in full monkey outfits. Like every but like the first like 1,000 humans they interact with are all monkeys.
You could like break somebody if you really put good enough prosthetics together and brought somebody back from 300 days in space and then only let them see monkey people walking around for the first 3 hours. Like you could psychologically break an astronaut.
You might actually break somebody.
We brought him back from space and then you ruined him. Like, come on, guys.
Everything for the joke, baby. No limits.
Anything for the giggles. Oh, I guess another big thing that happened this year is just like continued escalations with the Israeli-Iran Gaza conflict kind of thing.
Yeah, we had a lot of those.
And the year's not closed yet. Like this could be known as the year that we started World War III still.
We
got some time left.
It's not over yet, baby. We got 14 days. We had Beepergate.
I was going to say that was maybe the biggest one. Beepergate's fun.
Beepergate, the exploding furniture. Yeah, that's
Which
been a
again,
wild
kudos
year.
to though the morality of exploding beepers kind of randomly in supermarkets and everywhere else, just all at once. I don't know if I agree with the morality of that. I don't love the way they did that. One hell of a psyops mission, though. Holy shit!
It is so impressive.
Team some credit.
It is so impressive to either. I can't wait, and I know I've already said this, but I'll say it again. I cannot wait for the book of somebody that like researches that actually has sources inside Mossad, and we're going to get it 10 years down the road, right? It's going to like things are going to have to be declassified. Agents are going to have to cycle out of the agency, but one day we're going to get a book, and I can't wait to hear it, like creating a shell company to, it'd be like all of the
Dude, I've always said,
I
don't think you create a shell company to pull that off. I think you have to create a lot of shell companies so that you cast a wide net.
You do. Like, and
what if they go after a different bid? You probably need at least 2 so that you can give them a bid and then underbid it with the winners. Like
you need multiple. Yeah, you need multiple shell. It's like the logistical. It's impressive, and it makes me lament on like how far.
And we're not saying the Jews aren't smart. We were talking about the lasers a minute ago. I mean, they're on top of it.
And their tunnels. Like we're giving full credit here. It's like things that, like, if their intelligence agency can pull that off, and we can't even assassinate a president, like it shows you how far like the rot economy has just permeated through the fabric of American. Like it's everywhere in America. Like we are a falling country. Like it bums me out. Not that I wish that Donald Trump would have died, but it's like the essence. Like that's the best we can do. Some weird kid on a roof with a clean shot, and you guys can pull off this beeper thing. And it's like, what are we doing in this country? Like this used to be a country, Logan. This is the country that won WW2 by dropping 2 suns on Japan. We won the Cold War, and we can't even get rid of a president. And
how far we've fallen. I guess that's another one that we brushed over there as the assassination attempt.
That's a big one. That's
huge.
It's a big one. Also, isn't it a little weird how much we know about Luigi and how little we know about Crooks at this? It just like we know so much.
Well, Crooks was the one 20-year-old in the nation not to have any social media, so
Yeah, of course.
That's
and
why all
and they definitely, and it's no, I'm sure it's just coincidence that his house was scrubbed right after. Like they didn't even find silverware in the house. Yeah, I'm sure it's all just a coincidence. But
so where did you land on that? Do you think that that was a excuse me, a hit that was called in by our own government against our president? Or do you think this is a lone actor?
I do not think it was sanctioned by the government. I do not think that it was. I think there was deep state influences. And what I mean by that, there's always meddling, right? It's like the people that kidnapped the plot to kidnap the governor in Michigan. It was thrown out because once they actually got into court, it's like, oh, there's 13 federal agents entrapped these 2 guys, and it's like, so you guys masterminded a plot, and then you got these poor fools to go along with it, and so I don't think that it was openly sanctioned by the government, because I think if it was, they probably would have killed him. However, I think that it's the murder on Orient Express. No one really knows who, what, why, but you have a bunch of compounding interests that if he did end up dead, well, there's a lot of people that wouldn't be upset about it. So maybe you don't radio in about who actually has control over a roof. It's like
maybe all of our active comms mysteriously get cumbia music at the same time.
Yeah, you don't need like a top-down conspiracy sanction from the head of Secret Service. I mean, for something like that, all you really need is a couple of disgruntled agents on the ground that aren't going to be upset if Donald Trump has his brains blown out. And so I think it's a lot of like passive involvement where,
Mhm.
oh, there's like we're gonna look over here while you climb up that ladder, and
Yeah, we don't think Mr. Crooks is actually a threat we should look into. We don't think that kid with the ladder is much of an issue. You know.
wait,
Yeah, I'm
who's actually
kind
controlling the roof? Oh, that's our jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Oops.
of see.
One of
Yeah, I
those
think I'm with
things.
you on that. I think that there's a strong possibility that this is a bit of the 9/11 treatment, where like there was some fishy stuff going on that we probably had some security individuals who were privy to it and chose not to really react. Now, maybe that was out of gross negligence and incompetence, but maybe it was because of a phone call somebody got and they said, hey, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if Donald Trump got shot today.
Right. Yeah.
Let's give Crooks kid a chance. I heard
That's
he's
kinda
really
what-
improved since his high school marks.
Yeah, right. That's kind of where I land on it. But then again, like maybe it is just, and maybe there's a second shooter, and that's the problem with this is that we're never going to know, and it's going to go. And unfortunately, unlike the JFK assassination, where there's so much, so much public interest, this came and went quick, and out of all of the things in the news cycle that should have lingered. The assassin, that attempt is something that we should have been talking about in September, 2 months after the fact.
Yeah, it was a non-factor in the presidential election, it seems.
And it should have been the biggest, like that.
The day after, we thought it won Trump the election, and it went away before the election 3 months
Before
later.
the next week, it was over. No one talked about it. It was over. He showed up at the DNC or at the RNC, and that was it. And of all of the news stories that should have like lingered and had a chance to breathe and build, like that's the one. That's the lead that got buried in 2024.
That is odd. I don't guess I've really revisited that in my own head. Like, why did that story go away so quickly? How did that not?
Because no one talked about it. Because you know what I mean? It's like CNN, MSNBC.
Do you think that maybe
ABC,
in the
they're all
same ilk as this,
left-leaning.
and in the same ilk as kind of this psyop type of thing we went over earlier, and repeating the same message or not repeating the same message? I wonder how much of it was maybe governmental control because the waters got so hot and they were worried about some kind of larger uprising. Perhaps there was a concerted effort to be like, hey, let's let this one go.
Maybe so. I mean, of course, when you start to get into alternative histories and timelines, like all speculation, I don't know, it could have happened. But I imagine if I was to war game out a scenario in which Donald Trump was actually shot and killed in that day, I think that we are looking at a radically different world. I don't think that you see a 2024 election because martial law has been declared because of all of the civil unrest. I don't think that there's any sort of like clean, the RNC now puts up, like no vice president had even been declared because this is before the RNC, right? So
well, you know who they're replacing him though is Nikki Haley for sure.
And maybe so, but I feel like the unrest would have been so. I think
that's
that
curious, and I think that would be the play they're trying to make. Is they're obviously they're going to be replacing Trump with somebody they feel is, if Trump's not also under their control, somebody who is under their control, or at least somebody who is better at not saying the quiet part out loud like Trump does. That makes them nervous. And they would want to promote somebody that looks like a win as much as possible for the right. They wouldn't necessarily want a JD Vance type. I don't know enough about JD Vance to feel comfortable saying that he's not owned by nefarious people behind the scenes necessarily.
I'm sure they're all owned at this point, to be fair.
And I don't know if Nikki Haley had the right kind of juice, to be fair, to like court the MAGA supporters who are going to be the ones that you have to quiet down. So it would be somebody of that ilk, though. I would think they would have to like find them a person who's a controlled op who gives the illusion of like, oh, look how you guys won this election in a landslide after we killed your king. Good thing you got this new person in charge who's totally one of yours.
Yeah, I I don't know who that person would be because I mean at that point, everyone was already dropped out. I mean, that's something that we also happened that we missed in 2024 is that we had a huge presidential primary that Donald Trump didn't even show up to. You had everybody competing
Yeah.
for
we
this
really-
nomination when he was up 50 points and wasn't even on stage. And so
Yeah.
you had 7 people contending for the
1%.
leftovers. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, that's an interesting point. We ostensibly didn't have a primary on either side this year.
I mean, we had one on the Republican side, but
Right.
Donald Trump's like,
Okay,
why would I
yeah.
show up? I'm up by 50 points.
Right.
Like, why would I humor? Why would I humor this?
The Republican Party had one. Donald Trump didn't have one. He knew who was going to win.
He's like, I'm going to win. I will be.
That's-
Yeah.
Probably, at least this last year, if not all time, was my easiest money made betting was Donald Trump being the Republican nominee. I don't know how people thought he was not going to be the nominee at any given time. I can't believe I got positive odds on it at any given time. It was insane to me. But I walked at it plus 325 after his second arraignment. I was like, you guys don't think Donald Trump's going to be the Republican nominee? The only thing off of it was a better shooter on top of that roof in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I mean, it does make you wonder though. Like, I'm very glad that didn't happen because I think the timeline that we were spared a much worse timeline of our like immediate future and long-term future if that had happened. Because I think I think that probably would have been the spark for and it would fit right in the playbook, right? You would get okay, so you just killed the front runner of the Republican Party. Now all of these people, you have half of the voting bloc, which is roughly a third of Americans, are now very upset, and they are also the majority gun owners. Now it's like now they start to do things.
And
they
their
mobilize.
only nonviolent avenue to victory just got capped in the head.
Absolutely. So now they mobilize. You now have every excuse you need to deploy National Guard, to crack down, to try to enforce whatever laws you want. If it gets bad enough, you do what Zelensky does. You suspend an election. You say, nope, can't have an election. We're at war. And you just shut down your political opponents. And I think that very well could have happened in this election cycle if he had been killed in July or June, whenever that was. I think it's closer to a possibility than a lot of people want to admit because it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, it would have gotten ugly.
Quick.
Would have gotten ugly in a hurry. I mean, I think it could have gotten ugly if he just lost a close election. I think it could have gotten ugly if either one of them lost a close election. I think we might have been lucky in that regard as well.
It was, I've heard there was a lot of people before this election saying, like, I don't care what the result is. I want it to be a landslide. I do not want it's like whoever wins, please win decisively.
There's some lefty that told you that the day of was like, oh my God, no. It's possible. It's sliding the wrong direction.
No, it's red.
When I said that, I was kind of going off this idea that no Republican could ever win a popular vote ever again.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the big one. That's probably like the buried lead of 2024 is the Trump assassination. But another one, because this is a primarily political show, is that we have the July coup. I mean, it's like all of a sudden Joe Biden's on the out, and it was so weird. Someone's going to write a book about it. I hope it's Mark Halpern. I hope he's got the inside track to write this book because I think he would do an exceptional job at it. But there's a lot of funny. It's like, and coup might not be the right word, but you have Joe Biden. Maybe it is the right word. It's like you got Joe Biden saying, I'm definitely in. And then all of a sudden he gets COVID and then he puts out a tweet and nobody, and like Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi,
letterhead.
they don't endorse her for several days.
Yeah, they don't
You
want to
know,
endorse.
it's like there's like
I even heard the theory that that he may have come out and endorsed her to poison pill the water of them trying to move off another candidate.
I've heard that as well.
He certainly did his fair share of like wearing MAGA hats. Jill showed up to election day in a red dress to go vote. He did not seem to speak very nicely of Kamala at any point other than the moment he endorsed her. Like, it does seem like there's a little bit of backlash from the Biden camp here towards the Democrats, which has been a fun infighting, all the way down to like a big shit-eating grin when they announced Trump as the winner.
He looks very happy when he met with him in the White House. I will say that. I do wonder that about the miscalculations of these politicians, because we like, as much as we say they're stupid, they're not stupid. Like, these are not stupid people. They're smart, conniving,
Lizards.
competent, like competent lizards. But even then, there's miscalculations, and maybe it is something like maybe they underestimated in all their calculations and scheming. Maybe they underestimated like the ego of an 80-year-old man who is very proud, who's spent the last 50 years in public service, and he'll be like, I'll be damned if you get the last laugh on this one. Maybe it does come down to like some unknown quantifier of just like, damn, we really didn't expect Joe Biden to do any of that stuff.
We kind of thought he was senile enough he wouldn't even understand what was going on around him.
Right.
Really mad Jill gave him the meds yesterday. He decided to tank our election
his Alzheimer meds that like kept him lucid today. Because we always laughed about like he found out that he dropped out of the race that night. Like, what?
What?
Jill,
I was gonna vote for that guy.
But maybe he's just like, no, fuck you guys. I'm over it. You guys don't get, it's like, and also it's like James Carville. I don't know if you know who that name is, but he's like a Democratic strategist. Very, he's been embedded in the DNC for a very long time, but he was on his podcast talking about how Biden is the most tragic modern political figure in American history. And he says it with just like, he really shit in his own punch bowl. It's like, you said you're going to be a one-term transition president. Then you got the ego. I'm the only one to beat Trump. Maybe that's some senile, it's like all of this stuff, but
nobody's above the law. Then he pardoned more people than any president in history.
I don't know if is that true or not.
It is true. Yeah. He pardoned more individuals at the end of his presidency than any president.
Oh, I know there's some pretty scandalous ones. I mean, I'm not outraged about Hunter Biden.
No, I'm surprised so many people were shocked that a father would pardon his son. Who didn't see? Like, how do you not see that coming? Do you not have family in your life? That's what family's for. You're supposed to, like, I can have all my problems in the world with Hunter Biden getting off with a free ticket here. But I also think any father who wouldn't bail their son out is kind of a piece of shit too.
Absolutely. Like,
unless you have some kind of like larger life lesson you're trying to get him to learn, but that's not what this is going to be. That boy's going to prison forever.
Yeah. And it's also like, can we be fair about the charges? It's not like he's in jail for terrorism or conspiracy to commit terror. It's a gun charge and tax evasion. Like, who cares? What I mean? At the end of the day,
at worst, some pedophilia.
But he wasn't being charged for that.
That's true.
That's fair. It's like on the merits of the case. Like, I understand
that's a good point. He kept all of his pedophilia above table.
It's like it's like no, that's a separate conversation that is worthwhile. But on the merits of the case, like, we as Americans, are we really supposed to be upset about somebody for a gun charge and tax evasion? It's like, that is what this country is. Like, that is the core of this country, I
guess, to be fair, he did pardon him. What's the term for like anything you do in the future as well?
So you can't pardon future crimes.
Or excuse me, you're right. He pardoned him back to 2014.
2014, which also I was listening to, and this is not an original thought. This is me regurgitating somebody that's a lot smarter than me. There's a criminal defense attorney who said that the 2014 date is irrelevant and it's not necessary because the pardon implies That it's like he's like the pardon power implies that you have been pardoned for all crimes
Pardoned.
past and present. And so he's like, for
Gotcha.
all intents and purposes, you were pardoned back to the beginning of time
Day you
for
were born.
anything that you
Okay.
could. And it's like, and so like to specify, he's like, it's a little suspicious that you would go back to
That
the
you
day
picked the
that
year.
you know that he that you go back to the year
God,
that he's
Burisma.
Burisma. It's like
The year
it's
he got
kind
a
of not
salary.
necessary. And he's like, and if I was his attorney, I would say like, don't put that in there. Just be
Don't
like he's
put that
pardoned.
in, bud.
He's like he's just pardoned for everything, and like
He's
let it
pardoned
be.
for everything, especially embezzling money to the U.S. government in China. Like, hey,
He's like, don't put that in there.
easy, buddy.
Yeah,
Think,
but it's like,
you think Joe throws himself, because that's one thing. Like, he doesn't get a pardon if he really is the big guy in these text messages, which seems to be a foregone conclusion at this point.
yeah, I don't know though, because the guy though that claimed that, right, like the star witness for that, and so either one of two stories is right. So the guy that was the source for the big guy, right, that he just got sentenced to lying to the FBI. So one of two things happened: either he actually lied and made it up, or they're just like, or the conspiracy abounds and they're covering it up. It's one of two things, and there's nothing in between.
Interesting.
So who knows? But that
is the level,
source,
you know, that's the
just
level
got-
of person you're going after where you could get wrapped up in a larger conspiracy.
yeah, and it's like, and I don't know,
These
and
are the kind of
it's, and
powerful
I'm not
people that
here
can do
to
that.
sway one way or the other. But there's only two options: either this person actually is just guilty of lying to the FBI about this, and he is being punished, or the FBI is covering it up and they're just going to bury him in jail for the next decade, where something's going to happen to him. And I don't know which one it is. Both are equally plausible in my mind.
He accidentally killed himself in prison when nobody was watching.
Mm-hmm. By
The
hanging
old-
himself.
The old
In
hang
the,
himself excuse.
Yeah, in the suicide watch ward. Yeah, but I guess what I was going to say about is like the cash for kids. That's a pretty outrageous one.
Yeah, give me I remember this vaguely, but give me the rundown. I don't exactly remember the cash for
So
kids.
the judge just got his sentence commuted, and he was the guy that was taking pretty much like bribe payouts from private prisons to sentence kids, and it was like a per diem. Every
That's
kid he
right.
sent there, he got a kickback. And so this is a guy that ruined thousands of people's lives.
Children's lives.
Yeah. And yeah, he's just like, oh, he gets lumped up in there. It's pretty outrageous. Hunter Biden, that's not outrageous. Who cares? Like, he was always going to get pardoned. If I was the president, I'd pardon my son too. Like, why would I care about what the public thinks? Like, I have this unique power vested to me, the president. Right. I'm going to do what I want with it. And I'm like,
yeah.
It's the
there's only so many
president.
like cool president powers you get now that you can't get a blowjob in the Oval Office anymore. So you got to take advantage
Used to be a country.
It used to be a country until Bill ruined it all by fucking
that
loudmouth tramp.
Till the media ruined it, making a trying to take down the president.
Taking down a good president. Only one to turn in a positive balance sheet. I'll say that much.
Surplus. I mean, yeah, like, and all it's like, oh, you're gonna be upset about a blowjob in the office when you have a balanced budget. Like, dude, like maybe he was onto something. Maybe I'm not saying they're correlated, but maybe we should try like having more interns blow the president and see if there's like a positive correlation. Because if we start getting balanced budgets out of it,
Monica. You know what? These numbers are all making a lot more sense now. Now that I got my post-Monica clarity.
And I mean, since we're on like this train of like being fair, like, are we surprised that Bill Clinton didn't want to go home to Hillary? You know, like, like you can have a blowjob from this this attractive White House intern, or you can go home to your bulldog of a wife. Like,
come on, Monica, Hillary won't touch me, and I'm out of peanut butter at home.
Oh man,
I can't run the country this pin up. You know that. I think my Bill Clinton impression has aged with Bill Clinton. It's getting raspier as the years go by.
Well, so is he, though.
That's fair. I can just claim it's because I have an accurate current day Bill Clinton impression and not that my voice is getting shot with old age.
So is he.
We didn't talk about Boeing. This was the year of Boeing as well.
Mm.
That was the big story to open the year up.
Now, what do you think about all that?
I think it'd be a lot more interesting if our government wasn't hell bent on bailing out every large corporation that fucks us over, which is the treatment I'm sure they're ending up getting. It's just like, hey, slap on the wrist, get back out there, kiddo.
I mean, they did get, what was the settlement? Pretty large settlement. It's not nothing.
I'm sure it was less than they saved in maintenance fees. I bet they saved more money in cutting all those jobs out than they ever had to pay back.
All right. No, you're totally right. When you put it that way, it's not even worth looking up. And it is crazy, though, right? That 340 people between those two plane crashes ends up dying. And all you get is, it is a slap on the wrist. You're right. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah, their gross negligence was responsible for the deaths of 300 plus American citizens.
It's like it was a Kenyan Air and whatever, but still,
I guess that's fair. They weren't all American necessarily.
There was Americans on board, a couple on
we'll
both
count.
planes.
We'll count half lives for non-Americans.
So they still killed 100 plus people.
Minimum, maybe more. We don't know how many Americans. We don't know how many real lives were on those planes.
It is pretty crazy though that you do that and just get away with it, because that's what they did.
It's not that much. I mean, it's another, not like, I mean, every one of these is another ongoing great example, great lighthouse to point to as a libertarian of just like, this is what I'm talking about when I tell you guys that all of your regulatory markets are not actually regulating anything you want it to regulate. That your markets are in fact creating monopolies and not breaking them up.
That's true. It's totally true. And as somebody that works in one of those regulated industries, I get it. I see it. It's very apparent. It is a pay-to-play scheme, as unfortunate as it is, and that's just what happens when government gets involved. I'm trying to think
about a lot of that. Not that Biden ever actually let out any of those marijuana crime individuals, but I did always think that was an interesting scenario where they release all these gentlemen who caught charges for selling marijuana. And they get out of prison, and they're in the backlogged COVID judiciary system where they can't get cleared of all their charges once they're released, but they have to actually still go back and like get this all cleared off of their record so that they could apply for a license to potentially sell marijuana. So by the time these guys who are making a living selling marijuana get out of prison, get their lives back on track, get an opportunity to sell, they go, well, we already gave out all the licenses to rich white guys. So they're all selling the weed now. So it's like, you threw me in prison for 10 fucking years to just legalize the industry that you threw me in prison for, and then disavow me from partaking in that industry afterwards?
Yep, that's exactly what happened. And it's super shitty.
For the very few that even got out. There weren't even that many that got out.
It's I guess there's one thing that I did have on my list, is that Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, released 175,000 marijuana low-level convicts, which I thought was cool. You know, it's like, I think if you were living in a state that you were allowed to sell marijuana legally, there's no reason that any low-level offender should be in jail. Yeah, it's just, it's, you know, it's like, it should be part of the legislation built into the bill that legalizes it. Also, anybody in jail for this, you know, that didn't plead, because there's always extenuating circumstances. I know you get a lot of like pleas down, and but you know, it's like there's a lot of just run-of-the-mill drug dealers. It's hard out there on the streets. They ain't trying to make a living.
Some dude some guy that was trying to get more diapers by slinging some weed on the corner.
Right, like, oh my goodness, he's such a danger to society, selling this eighth to somebody that he knows. Right. It's like, whoa.
Right. And yet that same college freshman white kid that got caught with 2 pounds of weed that he was trying to sell got a little slap on the wrist, got suspended for a semester, right back to school. But he cried a lot harder about it. It was devastating to him because of his life experiences being so good up to that
for sure. And he had such a bright future. Who's that swimmer from Stanford That's what they argued. He's like, oh, he's got such a bright future. He's like, he raped a woman. Like,
Oh
what,
yeah, I
what,
forgot
like,
about
what are you
that.
talking about? Like there's no redeeming. Like, no, he raped her. Like, who cares what his promise was?
Think of all the bronze Big Ten medals he's going to win in swimming this year.
Yeah, it's a very unjust system. What else did we had? We had the federal standoff at the border when Texas at Eagle Pass.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yep, we had that.
I told the government to go shove one. We're protecting this here wall. I thought I saw a lot about AI interfacing with online search engines, and Neuralink. I thought was also kind of lumped in with that. Where like the pervasive face of AI is becoming more and more intertwined in our lives, which I guess is not a 1 year thing, obviously, but there were some.
It was
some
a big
big
year
stories
for it.
It was.
Yeah. And also it's kind of interesting that a lot of other countries are out, it's like I do not look to Europe for all of the moral guidance, but when they are trying to regulate things like food dyes and food additives that are allowed in America and only in America and third world countries, and they're just like, oh, we're gonna put, we're gonna get like a hold on this AI thing, and we're just like, who cares? It's like, like maybe like we could look at it.
There's some terrifying stuff too. Who was it I was listening to? I've even forgotten who the source was for this, but I was listening to somebody talk about going to the White House briefing on AI, and they were essentially telling everybody in these private sectors, like the Biden administration, this was like, don't invest in AI because it's going to be controlled by the government.
Oh,
it's going to be like
Jamie
3
sent
companies
that to
that allow.
us.
Is that where it was from? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's scary. So I'm glad to hear maybe a positive AI story that the regime that was at least hell bent on controlling all of AI is not currently in control as of January.
Until turns out that Elon Musk is heavily invested in, you know what I mean?
Oh, guys, actually, those drones were alien UFOs, and we're going to have to not have elections. We can't turn the government over to Trump because we're going to lock it down.
I wonder, I don't think there'll be any surprises in the next 30 days like that, but you never know. What else?
Another shot at the president. We're in the fourth quarter now. If anybody wants to assassinate him, this is the
time before he's
like there's a January stuff starts getting Hitlerian if you really think you want to shoot this guy.
Yeah, it gets out of control. Yeah, you're about to lose the game, so you better pull court precedent or throw the Hail Mary, whatever sports analogy you want to use, because you're running out of time.
Almost midnight.
We had Tucker Carlson go to Russia and interview Vladimir Putin.
That was a big one. Interesting. Little less meat on the bone of the interview than I would have liked, but it was still very interesting.
Yeah.
I think we were all unimpressed with the translator, if I remember correctly.
Well, I remember. Yeah, we were all watching translator. On the ski trip. But I will say that interview, because I have gone back and watched it, I wish that, because you're not going to get a history of America from Joe Biden or Donald Trump. I mean, have you seen that new, like that? And I only saw the clip, and so I have no idea what the context is, but he's talking about how America has been allies of Italy since ancient Rome, and the translator looks at them like, wait, what did you just say?
You're forgetting a pretty large one in the middle.
It's like, I don't know, there's maybe 2,000 years of history between those two things. But it's as much as you may not, and I don't like Vladimir Putin, I can at least appreciate a somewhat competent person. Now, that's not an endorsement of him.
He might be evil, but he does come across as quite competent.
It's like, if you can give me a justification about why Ukraine's actually not a country and why it's always been part of Russia, it's at least interesting to me. Now, I don't agree with that sentiment, but at least you have the intellectual capacity to articulate your argument versus just wait, I thought you said there was going to be ice cream, or you get chose well, America's always been great. We've always been here. and it's you get one of those things. It's like the casinos, they were always here. We've always loved them.
Yeah, you're not.
They were a
any day
favorite
soon
attraction
gonna-
of the West.
you're no day soon going to get a history lesson out of Trump, but on that level of depth, I'm sure.
Right.
Well, the year was 1672.
And they say it's Thanksgiving, but it really wasn't.
One side was very thankful. They were so thankful. They took advantage.
The other got
though.
smallpox.
Happy Thanksgiving, you dirty savages. Now move to Oklahoma where you belong. You're getting the next wall around that dirty, dirty state. I drove through Oklahoma kind of recently, and I noticed all of the like Native American name town, McAllister, Oklahoma. And every time I saw one of those, I went, I bet there's oil in McAllister, Oklahoma. But there's a reason that one's got an Anglo name to it.
I bet you're probably right.
One of my favorite parts of American history is making them all move to Oklahoma and then finding out there's oil in Oklahoma and going, ooh, we need you guys to move to the shitty part of Oklahoma.
Right. There's like, you gotta consolidate a little.
Yeah, we doing a little Indian giving if you guys, you know what we're talking about, right?
you know, just like,
you guys are familiar.
Could I interest you in the desolate stretch between Farmington and Albuquerque in New Mexico?
You guys still into beads, or have we figured that one out already? We're going to give them synthetic beaver pelts. They'll never see it coming. They're going to buy so many pelts.
Oh,
the finest pelts, no imperfections.
That's a really good. I've never thought of that, but you're probably right. There's probably something important there. That's why it's like,
all right. So one of my few things I got left on my list, I did think BRICS was an interesting one. I mean, it's been around for a little longer than this year, but this was the year Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the AEU all joined BRICS. Which I was surprised. I've forgotten that Saudi Arabia, you think of everybody, Saudi Arabia would be the ones that were like, guys, what the fuck are you doing? You want us to treat you like all the other goat herders in the Middle East, or you guys want to be our special Middle Eastern friend?
It makes you wonder, though, about the shifting geopolitical landscape that you can't stay on top forever. You know, empires, they come and they go. And I don't think that this is the end of the American empire. I don't think that the petrodollar is going to collapse in the next 10 years. But it's on the horizon.
You're right. This is the framework that could make it happen.
It'll come, because you can't, it's like, because it's happened. Like currencies change. It used to be a gold standard. Then, it was the British pound for the longest time. Before that, it was the it's like currencies come and go. And America's, I guess the nice thing is like we get to experience maybe not the heyday, but we get the end of the best time that it was to be an American.
That's kind of how I feel about AI. Like, hopefully we get to live in the time when AI does all the hard stuff for us and we get to live blissfully, and then our grandkids can put up with Skynet.
You're right. Yeah, that's fair. I agree with that. It's interesting because, well, it has to change. Like, things change as they must, and nothing is forever. And the American petrodollar was never going to last forever, even though that I'm sure that once upon a time,
no matter how many Muslim elementary schools you bomb,
it changes. Eventually they get. Eventually, it just changes, and it is interesting though because it gives, like, originally it makes sense. It is this kind of coalition against, and I don't even know if it's against the petrodollar originally, but it certainly became that, especially once we started slapping sanctions on Russia.
Yeah, and that was a big turning point. I mean, we were on that pretty early of like
We took
what
a
are the
victory lap.
ramifications of this? Right? Yeah, like
We
what are the
talked. We talked
ramifications
about
of
the week
same
after,
thing?
and we took a victory lap a year
Right.
after.
Yeah, here you go, dumbasses. This is exactly what a couple slapdick podcasters in their respective guest rooms. were
Right,
able to
like
throw
not
together.
even like not smart, not that it's like we figured this out.
It's not that hard to see this coming, you fucking dummies.
Yeah, that's a big one, and it will have long-term implications because when you have Saudi Arabia especially shakes it up.
Yeah, that's a scary one because it's an important one. There's a lot of oil moving through that country.
Yeah, I mean, it is the heart of OPEC, you know.
Maybe that just is the precursor for like the end game in the Middle East. Like you finally justify just guys, the economy collapses if we don't. So we're gonna go ahead and take all of the Middle East.
Or just glass it and just like nobody gets the Middle East.
That's another way. Anybody else want to go independent on their oil dollars? No? All right. That's cool.
Just glass it all. Be like, well, no, you guys can't play nice with the Middle East, so now nobody gets it.
The only conflict resolution to ever work in the Middle East is glass it all into the suffering worldwide.
Yeah, it is really interesting. I think they'll have that is
There's
probably
an easy target too. You can drop it right on that big black cube.
Don't worry, it's not a hate crime. We didn't bomb them because they're Muslim.
We just knew the heaviest density area.
It has nothing to do with their faith. It's like no, like I promise we don't hate Muslims. All right, it's
right.
like
I have nothing against Islam. I do think it's kind of funny your magic god didn't stop that nuke from hitting your magic rock, but
that's not for me to say.
Just saying, an almighty God might have been able to do something about that. But
maybe you should have prayed harder.
Do you guys still face east, or since I scattered that rock all over the place, you just kind of pray wherever now? There's like literally particles of it in the atmosphere right now, I think.
It's actually fallout. You guys should be like, what are you doing outside? You should. It's not safe to be out here.
Some good Islamophobia right there.
That is. I only have one more, and it is something that was good that never got the traction it deserved. Julian Assange finally free.
Oh yeah! Oh my god!
He got out of jail this year. One. Now, granted, like, did he deserve to spend the last like 10 years in like house arrest in England? And actually, no, he did not. But he got off on a plea deal this year, and I don't think that we celebrated that nearly enough as it should have been.
You're right about that. I mean, that is a huge win, and hopefully, according to Trump's rhetoric, we're going to see a couple more wins in that department here in the near future. Hopefully Ross Albright gets one of those. Who's the other one? Assange, and there's the one who, by all accounts, kind of went insane in prison and transitioned.
Oh, Chelsea Manning.
Chelsea still locked up, I think.
I think so.
I actually haven't looked into that in a while. I want to Google just to make sure. Oh no, she got out in 2017.
Oh really? Obama?
Commuted by Obama. All right, there's a Obama win.
Look at that.
Would have been nice if you freed the one that wasn't a tranny, but whatever, Obama. As well, I also wanted the tranny to get free. As well, Chelsea also deserves to be free. Just saying, there was a normal one you could have let out too. Okay, well, I just got one more as well. I got the Jennifer Crumley, first American parent to be found guilty of manslaughter, responsible for her kid's shooting.
I had that one on there too.
You know, that's one of those like could be a paradigm shift in the way we approach school shooters moving forward.
Yeah, that's fair. In this one specifically, looks bad. Like when your kid gets pulled aside for having horrific drawings and you then text your son like don't get caught next time, LOL. And it's the facts, you know what I mean? It's like that one doesn't upset me because the incentive, like you guys set the incentive base. And if you want to, like that one was a bad one. And I think that it pushed the envelope in like like your culpability as a parent for your child's actions. I don't think it's necessarily a bad one. Now, there's certain, I think that you're going to have to evaluate these on a case by case basis, but it's like the morning that your son shot up, like the morning of the day that your son will then shoot up the school in the afternoon, he gets pulled into the office. You have this exchange, you send that text message, and you guys don't think to be like, let's look in your bag. It's like let's what's in your bag, Ethan? You don't think to do that as a parent, or because you got called in the school and you went. So I don't know. It's not the worst thing.
Man, I looked up just how many school shootings there were in 2024.
How many?
323. Now, those are not all mass shootings. I'm sure there's a lot, like any kind of gun violence included in that, but just the fact that over 300 schools had shootings.
I mean, that's 323 out of 365 days.
It's not, hey, that's pretty good. We had a whole month there of nonviolence.
Yeah.
You know what? When you put it that way, Matthew,
it's not a problem at all.
That's barely an issue.
It's not
Think about how many schools there are, one a day. That's such a small percentage.
I mean, there's got to be at least 10,000 schools in America. It's not even that much, guys.
Oh, that's bleak.
That's rough.
Oh,
There's on that note, I will say that I saw this post talking about it was in context of like the lack of sympathy for the CEO that got shot outside. And this person was saying, like, you expect a generation of children that were raised on school shooter drills to have sympathy for when the violence broaches your ivory tower. It's like, oh, not wrong.
Something to that, yeah.
Then you're not wrong. It's not great, but it's not an unrealistic sentiment. Like, like we're not supposed to clutch our pearls about it.
I know there's a lot of sentiment that I felt around this of like, oh, should you have a lot of resources to go find a shooter when it's a rich guy? Like a lot of people get shot every day. And most of us, by the time the cops that get there, they're like, not even a reason to bring the CIA kid out, guys. Like it's gone. It's over. So
yeah,
there was a lot of misgivings towards our country's law enforcement for being so concerned about this one when you can't seem to even get your dead relatives a second look at their case.
Yeah, it does highlight. I think this might be a good way to end 2024. I think is in recap of the year. I think this year has been very illuminating. There's always been numerous Americas for a lot of different people, right? Like for as many people as you have in this country, there's that many versions of America. But what has been persistent in the past is the myth and the story we tell ourselves about America. I think 2024 specifically was a year that myth broke, where you started to have a fracture, like the fracturing of the stories that we tell ourselves as a nation, that it's no longer this overarching story that yes, America's great, yes, America's good, doesn't matter, work hard, pull yourself up with the bootstraps, you can make it. This year really highlighted the fact that a lot of people do not believe that, and it shows. And for better, for worse, I think 2024 was a year of deep fractures that will have long-term ramifications. I have no idea what they will be, but I think that all of the fractures and the fissures that we've seen in 2024, they will have real consequences, for better, for worse. But I think this is the year that the myth of America finally broke in our zeitgeist. Like public trust of the media is at an all-time low.
Mm-hmm.
Congressional approval is at an all-time low.
That is interesting. Yeah, you got a good point there. I mean, it's I think maybe the left has already been there for a little while in kind of demonizing America, although they haven't lost their trust in institutions
Mm-hmm.
quite yet up until this point. But yeah, you definitely saw with that on the right, and maybe not exactly this year, but in the last 4 years at least, where they've had a complete disillusion of the bureaucratic American system actually being this knight in shining armor up on the hill.
Absolutely. This was the year. I mean, I think this was the year that broke it all. I think we will look back. I think historians one day will look back at the wealth of information that we have, and they'll be able to point to 2020. Like, you're right, it's that 4-year time span, the 2020 to 2024 year. But I think that you could look at 2024 specifically as a tumultuous year where a lot of things really came to a head.
Or yeah,
Where it's
at
like,
least
that was
the fever pitch of it.
Mhm.
And I would say even, I mean, interestingly, maybe globally, like you're seeing more right-wing groups taking over in Germany once again for
Yep.
first time in a long
The
time.
EU.
Malay in Argentina, the EU, like it's changing. Trudeau's reportedly thinking about stepping down in Canada after having tremendously low approval ratings and everybody turning on him. Like it's there is seemingly a genesis moment here of a change in the opinion towards what the global elites have been pushing sort of unchallenged for the last 8 years.
Yeah, and I would say that it's actually gone on longer because when the Soviet Union falls, it's dubbed the end of history by a lot of historians. So a lot of people look at like 1991, it's like, well, no more history to be had, like it's all smooth sailing from here. And now I think that you could, and I know this is a stretch, but you know, you like Dan Carlin, as you know, that it's all related, it's all intertwined. And I think that you can trace 2024 back to kind of this end of history mentality, where this idea of like liberal democracies, left wing ideologies, it took hold, and we're seeing the consequences of 25 years of that actually being in the mainstream, and now we're suffering the consequences of those policies. So I don't know. It's been an interesting year. It's been a hell of a year, and I'm sure the 2025 will be just as wild in all of the different, and like in the same. It'll be the same but different. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
we're in a bit of a lull right now, and at least in American politics. Like Teflon Don gets inaugurated in January, and I think that this honeymoon period of transition might be over then. I think you're going to see people jump back on the evil Trump train, even though the Trump derangement syndrome is
fast.
Yeah, even though we've maybe broken the fever on the derangement syndrome, I don't think the left is done fighting against Trump just because he won this election.
Mm-mm. And depending on how he acts and behaves, it might be justified. You might see the right also turn on Donald Trump too. And we'll see. We'll see what, I think that's the only thing that we can't, that's actually the only thing that we can do. We can just hang in the pocket and see how it unfolds.
Yeah, outside of pulling a successful Thomas Cooks, that's about all the power we have.
Yeah, and I don't have the stomach for it, nor the inclination, if anyone's listening. Just to make sure I can,
I'm no hero like Luigi.
Oh man. Well, I don't know if we'll get another episode out this year because we got Christmas and New Year's on our recording days. Because we got Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, then New Year's Eve, then New Year's Day on our next Tuesday, Wednesday. So, what you got for the people, Logan? Your potentially the last words of 2024.
Last words of 2024. Wow, impactful. I mean, what am I supposed to say to send the people off? I don't guess the message is going to be any different than it always is, guys. I mean, this is a long battle towards the libertarian future that I have envisioned. You guys have heard me argue against my neocon friends and Matthew and Kiefer on this podcast several times about how we don't need to take a swing to neo-fascism in the form of Christian conservative leanings, and that we need to educate ourselves. I'm still hanging on to my message of positivity when it comes to that. I think that there is a future where we can influence enough hearts and minds and get in enough heads and teach enough people about freedom and liberty and the evils of government that maybe we can come out of this with some semblance of a free world in the future. But that we have to stay vigilant. I mean, there's a strong propaganda machine out there, and we, for the first time in history, we have an equally powerful apparatus in our fingertips and the internet. And I think that that's a glean of hope for the future.
My man, I like it. I think my closing words for this year are: it has been a hell of a ride, and the roller coaster is only going to get crazier and crazier. But there are very few things. There's actually very few things I do believe in. And I believe in the power of the individual. I believe in the power of love. I believe in the power that you can have to control your own life. And I'm super thankful for this audience. I'm super thankful for you, Logan. It's been, you've put up with me through all of my nonsense, and it's like I've not been the most diligent co-host, and so thank you for sticking by me through my trials and tribulations of trying to make something of myself, as much as I hate it. But yeah, I think that no matter what happens in 2025, I think as long as we remember that there's a lot of really good things in life. There's a lot of good people out there. I hope that you know them. I hope you're surrounded by them. And I hope that you can always find the beauty in the darkness, because I don't think that this is, and I think that's always been that way. I don't know if there's ever like you've reached the light at the end of the tunnel and it's this great utopia. I think we've always been in the tunnel chasing the light. And I think the light is what Logan's talking about. A freedom that, like a future that more people are free and more people are happy and government is less involved in your life. So
A Gleam of Light in the Darkness, an autobiography by a young black man, young mixed race man struggling with his African roots.
I am not your Negro. Yeah, that's maybe one day I will. If I ever make something of myself, maybe I'll write a book. But until then, this podcast will suffice 100%. Cool. It's been a great episode. Yeah, another year. Thank you guys very much for tuning in with us. I know that we took a long hiatus, but it is very good to be back with you guys consistently. We appreciate, I know that we lost a huge chunk of the audience through that hiatus, but those that are still with us and still do listen, know from the bottom of our hearts, we really appreciate you guys. We love that you're still here, that you still choose your time to spend with us, because you have a lot of different competing interests. And the fact that you actually make a choice to listen to us means everything to us. So thank you. Thank you. I hope everybody has wonderful holidays and Merry Christmas. I hope they are not chaotic, because I know that, sometimes holidays do suck for a lot of people. So I hope they don't suck for you, though. So thank you very much for tuning in to Against the Mob podcast. And remember, as we roll out 2024 into 2025, we fight against the mob with people over politics, because that is truly what's important. Politicians are fickle. Yeah. I was one. I know for a fact, like, we suck. We are fickle. You cannot trust us. We will ruin your lives. We will take your job. We will fire you. We will not improve your life. But the people that you hold dear, they might. So put your faith in them and not in politicians. And with all that being said, we fight against the mob, people of politics. We'll see you guys in 2025.
See you. Where's your outro music?
Oh, I forget it every time.
God. Add some